Chapter 2601. Matriarch Ji had used the heaven-stabilizing needle to shackle Su Fang. She was very pleased with herself. Little did she know, Su Fang let out a disdainful sneer. He took a step forward, and the shackles around him were useless to him. In an instant, he appeared in front of Matriarch Ji. How can you not be shackled by the power of the heaven-stabilizing needle? This is impossible. Matriarch Ji looked at Su Fang in shock. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. If you want to kill me, Su Fang, then you should be prepared to be killed by me. Su Fang shouted domineeringly as he threw out a punch with the power to destroy heaven and earth. The space-time and heavenly law around the Ji clan's venerable emperor, who was trying to escape, shattered. Then, his defense, divine body, and everything else turned into ashes. Divine Destruction Fist. After becoming a venerable emperor, the power of Su Fang's various divine abilities had also increased. At this moment, when he used the Divine Destruction Fist, he killed an venerable emperor with a single punch. Strong, he's too strong. Venerable Emperor. Su Fang has become a supreme venerable emperor. What kind of fortune did he obtain on the exalted celestial mountain? How could he become a supreme venerable emperor in such a short time? When Su Fang was still a lower master god, he already had the strength to kill a venerable emperor. Now that he has become a supreme venerable emperor, doesn't that mean he has supreme strength that transcends heaven and earth? Seeing Su Fang kill the Ji clan's venerable emperor with a single punch shocked everyone. Looking at the dispirited Su Fang, everyone's eyes were filled with disbelief. If he was at his peak, how powerful would he be? It was only now that everyone realized that the ancestral Dragon was not Su Fang's backer. Why would he need a backer when he was so powerful? The moment Su Fang made his move, he displayed an invincible stance that shocked all the experts in the world. Sovereign Sang Qiu looked at Su Fang, and the shock in his eyes had yet to dissipate. He nodded and sighed. The genius who was on the primordial chaos golden roll back then has grown to a height that can crush supreme sovereigns. Even this sovereign has to look up to him. It is truly incredible. Xiao Wanting, on the other hand, was trembling with fear, but at the same time, he was rejoicing. Back then, he had killed the dead lord and offended Su Fang. Fortunately, he had resolved the grudge in time, and this time, he had stood up for Su Fang. Otherwise, with Su Fang's current strength, how could he have escaped? Master is mighty. Su Fang is invincible. Waves of cheers came from the heaven realm like a tsunami. Su Fang was like a peerless overlord. He looked at Di Hao and said, Lord Di Hao, I will repeat myself. If you leave now, I will let bygones be bygones. Di Hao hesitated. The strength that Su Fang had shown made Di Hao full of fear. To be precise, it should be fear. For the first time, he felt that Su Fang was unfathomable and unshakable. However, when he thought of the power of the imperial people, if he left now, the imperial people would no longer be able to maintain their position as the #1 divine clan in the myriad world. Moreover, behind the imperial people, relying on the supreme heavenly path, Di Hao immediately became determined to kill Su Fang. No matter how powerful Su Fang was, and he had a transcendent expert like the ancestral Dragon, how could he go against the supreme heavenly path? Moreover, Di Hao also had the celestial lord Dharma body statue. Di Hao was confident that as long as he activated the power of the statue, it would be easy to kill Su Fang. Moreover, this was a rare opportunity. Su Fang had not recovered from his serious injuries, and the ancestral Dragon had been persuaded not to make a move. If he missed this opportunity, it would be impossible to kill Su Fang in the future. In addition, Su Fang had repeatedly tolerated him, causing Di Hao to misjudge. He thought that Su Fang must be trying to stall for time to recover. With that thought in mind, QL11 Di Hao made a decision in his heart and said majestically, Su Fang, you are just pretending to be strong. How can you scare me? I will also give you one last chance. Submit to the supreme imperial people, and I will let you live. You won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Let's go. I will wait for you in the chaotic void. Su Fong smiled indifferently. With the strength of these two people, if they fought here, then not only would it be the celestial world, but even the entire primordious heaven world and primordious heavenly palace would be destroyed. Thus, Su Fong chose to fight in the chaos void. Su Fong looked at Xiao Wanting and the others. Please come to the square heaven realm and wait for a while. I will be back soon. He was about to have a life and death battle with the number 1 expert below the transcendent level, but he treated it as if he was attending a banquet. Then, he looked at the venerable sovereigns, overgods, and experts from the 8 forces who came with Di Hao. Su Fong's voice suddenly turned cold. He said majestically, "Everyone has to leave half a step. Otherwise, you will die." After that, Su Fong flashed into the chaotic void and disappeared. "I want to see how you can defy the heavens today." Di Hao snorted coldly. He also turned into a ray of divine light and flashed into the chaotic void. Leaving many experts outside the square heaven realm, Xiao Wanting and the others were brought to the square heaven realm by the Moon Emperor, who flew out of the square heaven realm. The others were in a constant state of panic, and did not dare to leave half a step. In a flash, Su Fong traveled through the endless chaotic void, and came to a chaotic void. The chaotic torrents surged wildly. Su Fong was in the middle of the torrent. His figure was majestic and motionless, as if he did not exist. The terrifying chaotic torrents could not even lift a corner of his clothes. Whoosh! Di Hao traveled through the chaotic void and arrived. The chaotic torrents around him instantly calmed down. The domineering and majestic aura of the number 1 expert below the transcendent level was fully displayed at this moment. Su Fong said, "Inside the celestial worthy mountain, I promised the mountain guardian that I would let the imperial people go 3 times. Just now I reminded you 3 times. This can be considered as fulfilling my promise to the mountain guardian. Also, I promise that after killing you, I will not kill the imperial people." Su Fong, I don't know where your confidence comes from. The one who will die today can only be you. It's useless to say more. Die. Di Hao shouted domineeringly. He immediately released the heavenly Tao Dharma form. The illusory image of the celestial worthy mountain quickly condensed. Its divine power shrouded Su Fong and quickly turned into a world. It was about to shackle Su Fong inside. Only the celestial worthy Dharma form statue can threaten me. Your own strength is just a joke in front of me. Su Fong smiled domineeringly. His figure quickly turned into the chaotic void and disappeared without a trace from Di Hao's divine power. Transcendence. He has truly transcended heaven and earth. Di Hao was dumbfounded. The world created by his heavenly Tao Dharma form was different from the world created by ordinary venerable sovereigns. It was an independent space that was very similar to the Yuan Tiangong. Although he had not transcended, even half-step transcendent experts like the Tao Defiance Alliance leader and the Ancestral Fiend would not be able to escape easily if they were enveloped by the divine power. Su Fong had actually left the shackles of his world so easily. Only those who truly possessed supreme strength that had transcended the shackles of heaven and earth could do so. So what if you're a transcendent expert? I control the heavenly Tao. Do you think you can go against the heavenly Tao? Di Hao knew that he had no choice but to use his trump card. He took out the celestial worthy Dharma form statue again. In an instant, the statue seemed to have come alive. Its aura merged with heaven and earth, controlled heaven and earth. It was as if the celestial worthy Dharma form had personally descended and controlled all things. Don't you know what that omen means? So what if it's the heavenly Tao? The celestial worthy Dharma form tried to suppress me. I've already gone against heaven. How can a mere statue resist me? Su Fong's disdainful laughter resounded from the void. The illusory light from his eyes enveloped the statue. An illusory blade condensed in an instant. It carried the sharp power of destiny as it slashed down on the statue. Life-severing blade. The heavenly secret life-shrinking technique was a supreme divine ability that could restrain destiny and faith. The life-severing blade condensed from the heavenly secret life-shrinking technique's Tao runes could not only sever the illusory destiny, but also all the fetters of destiny. It could also destroy all faith and will. Ka. Under the power of the life-severing blade, the celestial worthy Dharma form statue was like an ordinary piece of wood. The supreme heavenly might was shattered. Dense cracks appeared on the statue before it finally shattered. Di Hao was dumbfounded. He found it hard to believe that the celestial worthy Dharma form statue that could suppress a transcendent expert was so easily shattered by Su Fang. Su Fang consumed a lot of life force to use the life-severing blade again. Fortunately, he didn't use all of his Tao runes this time. Moreover, he only used it on a statue. He didn't directly use it on the celestial worthy Dharma form like last time. Therefore, the consumption this time was still within the acceptable range. In the next moment, Su Fang's figure suddenly appeared behind Di Hao and blasted out another apocalyptic fist. Su Fang had transcended this part of the universe. When he used his power in this part of the universe, he would be rejected by the universe. His punch broke the shackles of the heavenly way and collapsed the laws of nature. It landed squarely on Di Hao's back. Di Hao was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. He was immediately severely injured. However, at the same time, he used the impact of the impact to escape into the void. Whoosh! Di Hao traveled through countless planes of time and space in a flash. However, no matter how fast he was, how could he be faster than Su Fang's speed that transcended heaven and earth? After several times, Di Hao couldn't escape from Su Fang's pursuit. He instantly fell into despair. I gave you a chance before. Unfortunately, you didn't cherish it. I will let you know what transcendence is. Su Fang used the power of the world of yin and yang to envelop Di Hao. Then, he broke free from the shackles of the heavenly way. He traveled through the barriers of the universe and arrived at the chaos outside the universe. This is the outer world. Di Hao was shocked and immediately fell into despair. Of course, he understood that Su Fang didn't bring him to the outer world to see the scenery. Su Fang, you killed me because you want to replace the imperial people and become the master of the myriad worlds. I am willing to give you all the power that the imperial people have and make you the master of the myriad worlds. In the face of death, Di Hao, the most powerful figure in the myriad worlds, completely lost his usual majesty. He began to admit defeat and beg for mercy from Su Fang. Su Fang shouted domineeringly, Di Hao, do you think that I, Su Fang, am the same as you? I can disregard everything for power? Besides, the power of the master of the myriad worlds is more precious than your life in your eyes. However, in the eyes of I, Su Fang, it is like dirt. I, Su Fang, have always repaid kindness with kindness and hatred with revenge. If you want to kill me, it is only right for me to kill you. For the sake of the Mountain Guardian, after killing you, I will not destroy the imperial people. Chapter 2602. You see the supreme power of controlling the myriad of worlds as dung? How can I believe that? Di Hao sneered arrogantly and scoffed at Su Fang's words. A frog at the bottom of a well. How can the ambition of I, Su Fang, be limited to this narrow well? Su Fang looked at Di Hao as if he was looking at a short-sighted frog at the bottom of a well. He continued, There's no harm in telling you the truth now. The heavenly Lord Pan Tsang will be devoured sooner or later. No one can stop the changes in the world. This universe is destined to be destroyed. The power that you've been scheming to protect is like a castle in the air. It will soon disappear. Even if I don't kill you, you won't live for more than 1,000,000 years. Su Fang's words made Di Hao's face turn pale. It was as if his soul had been taken away. Considering that you've helped me before and that you're a top expert of the myriad of worlds, I'll let you die with dignity. You can end it yourself. Su Fong looked at Di Hao with pity. Then, he withdrew his divine power and left Di Hao behind. He flashed and left the chaotic void. I didn't expect that after all the fighting, everything would be for naught. Without the protection of Su Fong's divine power, Di Hao's divine body began to shatter under the terrifying pressure of the chaotic void. He laughed loudly. His divine body, world, and primordial spirit began to burn. The strongest expert of the imperial people, Di Hao, died just like that. Ancestral Gregon saw the whole process of Su Fong killing Di Hao clearly. Su Fong easily destroyed the Heavenly Lord's Dharma body statue with the life-severing blade, which shocked Ancestral Gregon. Ancestral Gregon was forced to listen to Su Fong because of the Beast Tamer token, not because of Su Fong's strength. Now, Su Fong's strength made Ancestral Gregon fearful. For the first time, he was in awe of Su Fong. Seeing Di Hao die, Ancestral Gregon shuddered. Su Fong is not an ordinary person. I'm afraid I'm in trouble this time. Ancestral Gregon was shocked and nervous as he teleported out of the Heaven Realm. An Emperor Realm Master mustered up his courage and asked Ancestral Gregon respectfully, "Sir Ancestral Gregon, what was the result of the battle between Su Fong and Di Hao?" Ancestral Dragon snorted, "What else can we do?" At this moment, who else in this part of the universe could be a match for that kid? That reckless junior from the imperial people was naturally killed by the Su Fong crushed. Everyone was aghast. His first thought was disbelief. How could this be? Di Hao was a supreme existence in the myriad realms, a supreme expert. How could he be killed by Su Fong? Moreover, how long had it been? Suddenly clang, clang. Solemn bell tolls came out of the Yuan Tiangong spacetime and spread across all the world. The bell rang for a total of 108 times. Everyone was dumbstruck in an instant. The bell was called the world-shocking bell. It would only ring 108 times when the Yuan Tiangong was in danger of being destroyed or when an important peerless figure had died. While the bell was still ringing, a voice full of despair came out of the Yuan Tiangong. "Sir Di Hao has fallen. It's over. The myriad realms are completely finished." Only then did everyone realize that Ancestral Gregon was right. They were all shocked and terrified. Whoosh! Su Fong walked out of the void. Su Fong's appearance here at this moment meant that Di Hao's death was an indisputable fact. At the same time, it also meant that from this moment on, Su Fong had become the ruler of the myriad realms. Countless imperial people had become a thing of the past. Everyone looked at Su Fong with eyes full of awe. "You still want to kill me?" Su Fong looked at the two Emperor Realm Masters with a cold gaze. Apart from Matriarch Ji and Emperor Luo, only these two Emperor Realm Masters were left to come to the Heavenly Realm to kill Su Fong. Under Su Fong's gaze, the two Emperor Realm Masters felt that their primordial spirits were about to shatter. Their bodies trembled, and they felt that they were facing a transcendent realm master like the Mountain Guardian. In fact, he was even more terrifying than the Mountain Guardian. The two Emperor Realm Masters' Dao hearts almost collapsed. They knelt down to Su Fong and said, "We were blind. Please forgive us, Holy Son Su Fong. We are willing to submit to you and become your slaves. Submit to me?" Su Fong smiled domineeringly. "You are not qualified to be my slaves now." With Su Fong's current strength, Emperor Realm Masters were qualified to be his slaves. However, he had no intention of dominating this universe. What did he need these two Emperor Realm Masters for? "Su Fong, there's no need for you to do anything. Leave these two clowns to this ancestor." Ancestral Gregon smiled ingratiatingly at Su Fong. He struck out with his claw and crushed the two Emperor Realm Masters into pieces. Even their corpses were not spared. Ancestral Gregon swallowed them whole, including their skin and bones. Another two Emperor Realm Masters were easily killed. The many cultivators outside the heavenly realm, as well as the many masters who had been paying attention to the situation in the heavenly realm, were all frightened. Su Fang looked at ancestral Gregon coldly and transmitted his primordial spirit to him. I asked you to do something before, but you found an excuse to stay out of it. It seems that I don't need you anymore. Sensing the murderous intent in Su Fang's primordial spirit, ancestral Gregon's heart trembled and he couldn't help but shudder. With Su Fang's current strength, ancestral Gregon was no longer as important as before. The only use he had was probably his powerful dragon body. Since ancestral Gregon didn't listen to him, he might as well kill him, strip his blood essence, and use his corpse to refine magic treasures. Ancestral Gregon was panicking in his heart. He forced a smile and replied, "Little brat Su Fang, you can't be serious, right? Su Fang, this time it's my fault. I won't do it again." Su Fang nodded and said, "I hope there won't be a next time." Ancestral Gregon heaved a long sigh of relief, as if he had been granted amnesty. Everyone saw the two's behavior. Although they didn't understand what had happened, they could see ancestral Gregon's awe and fear towards Su Fang. Suddenly, they felt even more awe towards Su Fang. The masters from the Sanskrit, Chi people, and other Shin clans trembled when they saw this scene. Some cultivators whose Taoist hearts were not firm enough were so scared that they almost couldn't stay in the air. However, they didn't dare to escape and could only wait for Su Fang's punishment. "Greetings, Lord of all realms!" No one knew who it was, but someone shouted loudly. Only then did the others react. They all knelt down and kowtowed to Su Fang. "Greetings, Lord of all realms!" At this moment, all realms surrendered. "QL 11-inch Lord of all realms?" Su Fang smiled disdainfully. The divine light swept over everyone, and then he said majestically, "Many of you came here to hit me when I'm down, right? Su Fangda, please spare our lives." Those cultivators with evil intentions knelt down and begged Su Fang for mercy. Su Fang said lightly, "I won't kill you. It's not that I'm soft-hearted, but that you don't deserve to be killed by me. There's no need for me to kill you." Those cultivators were shocked and stunned. They looked at Su Fang in disbelief. "That's because even if I don't kill you, you won't live for long," Su Fang said lightly. Everyone looked at each other. They didn't understand, but they felt that it was awesome. Su Fang raised his voice and spread it across all realms with the help of his divine power. "This time, I entered the celestial worthy mountain and found out the truth of the changes in heaven and earth. I asked you to stay to tell the truth, so that you can prepare in advance." Everyone pricked up their ears. The celestial worthy has been possessed by the evil god. In less than 1,000,000 years, the 9 blood suns will rise to the sky. All life in all realms will be devoured. This part of the universe will be completely turned into a wasteland. No life will survive. Su Fang said slowly. His calm voice sounded like it came from the mouth of the Grim Reaper. Everyone was stunned and immediately fell into endless despair. Everyone said the same thing in their hearts. "It's over, it's completely over." Outside the celestial worthy realm, the Hunyuan heaven realm, the Yuan Tiangong, and even the other realms fell into a dead silence at this moment. Xiao Wanting, Emperor Sangqiu, and the others flashed out of the celestial worthy realm. Emperor Sangqiu asked in disbelief, "Su Fang, what you said just now, is it true?" Su Fang nodded and said, "It's absolutely true." Xiao Wanting stared at Su Fang and said, "Is there no way to resolve it?" Su Fang said slowly, "The celestial worthy has used all means to get rid of the evil god's possession, but he still couldn't resolve the catastrophe, let alone the cultivators of the god realm." Everyone fell into complete despair. Their minds went blank and they were all disheartened. Xing Wuji smiled sadly and cupped his fists at Su Fang. "There are still 1,000,000 years left. I'm going to accompany my family." Xiao Wanting and the others also said goodbye to Su Fang. Su Fang suddenly said, "The heavenly path is about to be destroyed, But I didn't say that you have no chance of survival. Why are you in such a hurry? Swoosh, swoosh. Eyes full of doubt and surprise fell on Su Fong. Ancestral Gragon laughed and said, "You bunch of idiots, frogs at the bottom of the well. The well is about to be destroyed. Don't you know how to escape from the well?" Xiao Wanting's eyes shone brightly. Transcendence. A transcendence expert can take us out of this world and go to the legendary outer space. Lord Ancestral Gragon, please save us. Although I can take you out of this world, do you think I can raise you for the rest of your lives? Ancestral Gragon sneered and then pointed at Su Fong. Su Fong cultivates the supreme heavenly path. The world in his body is the universe, and he has already transcended this world. He is the only one who can save you now. Why don't you beg him? Su Fong nodded and said, "That's what I want to say. I can take you out of this world." While everyone cheered in surprise. However, once you enter my inner world and follow me to the outer world, you will have no choice but to live in my inner world from now on unless you can one day transcend my world and obtain the ability to survive in the outer world. You can decide for yourselves. After 10,000 years, I will leave this world. If you want to leave, come to the heavenly realm. Su Fong left these words and then flew into the heavenly realm. The myriad worlds fell into a panic. About 1,000 years. On this day, Su Fong flew out of the heavenly realm. After 1,000 years of recovery, he had finally recovered to his peak state. Before leaving the Pongsong universe, there were some things that had to be settled. The first karma that Su Fong had to settle was the small world. He was born in a small world. Before leaving, he naturally had to take a look at his hometown. Although he had already expected this, the scene that he saw made his heart heavy. Why? In the small world, the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth was completely replaced by the death aura and evil aura. The galaxies and small worlds had completely turned into wasteland. No signs of life could be sensed. The only things that existed were the resurrected cultivators, the big goblin, and other evil existences. Chapter 2603. Leaving the minor world, Su Fong traversed the natural boundary of heaven and earth and arrived in the greater world. Projecting his perfected ability, he instantly covered the various great worlds and immortal planes. There are still immortals alive? With his perfected senses, Su Fong sensed that there were quite a few immortals alive in some of the desolate plains. Since you've encountered Su Fong, it's your good fortune. Su Fong smiled faintly and unleashed his divine might, sweeping past the worlds with immortals and absorbing them into his internal world along with all matter. Ever since Su Fong had sent people to move the celestial realm to the divine realm, some of the remaining immortals were struggling at death's door, living one day at a time. Encountering Su Fong this time could be considered a supreme stroke of good fortune, saving their lives. With a single thought, Su Fong formed a spacetime isolated from the outside world on the vast continent in his internal world. Su Fong then moved the immortals and their worlds into the spacetime. In this way, the cultivators of the greater world became the first batch of humans in Su Fong's universe. Most of the immortals didn't even realize that the heavens had changed and their fates had been completely changed. They're just a bunch of ants. Are they worth your trouble? Nethery's voice sounded from the ancestral demon blood plate, full of disdain for Su Fong's actions. Nethery was only left with his nascent spirit, so Su Fong had him temporarily reside in the ancestral demon blood plate. He would find a suitable physical body for him when they arrived at the divine realm of the Jiuquan. Xu Wanjin was still in the process of integrating the Origin En mirror, and wouldn't be able to do so in a short period of time. But once she did, her strength would increase tremendously. Ants. Su Fong smiled faintly. The celestial venerate regards me as an ant. If I treat these cultivators of the greater world as ants, then how am I different from the celestial venerate? Su Fong's words left Nethery speechless and he fell silent. Su Fong continued, Although ants are small and lowly, they still have the right to live. I've also walked step by step from the most insignificant ant to my current state, so how could I dare to look down on them? Saving the cultivators of these large worlds is as easy as lifting a finger for me, but for them, it's a chance to live. You exclaimed in admiration, Su Fang, now I finally understand why you were able to become a peerless master who transcended heaven and earth from a mortal in a small world in just a few 100,000 years. He returned to the myriad realms from the great world. With a flash, Su Fang entered the deepest spacetime in the world and arrived at the 9 underworld. He stood on the Nether River with his hands behind his back. With a flick of his sleeve, a black-clothed man flew out from the depths of the Nether River and appeared in front of Su Fang. It was the clone of you that was replicated by the primeval chaos sacred mirror. Nether came out of the ancestral fiend blood plate and fused with her avatar. Although the strength of this clone was far from its peak state, Mystery finally had a temporary divine body to reside in. She took Mystery into her inner world and let him reside in the inner space of the Jianmu tree. However, Su Fangda shouted, Qiangang, Goli, come out and see me. About half an hour later, a Buddhist light emerged from the Nether River and turned into a mirage kingdom of Buddhist light. Qiangang walked out of the mirage kingdom of Buddhist light. Not long after, Goli also came to Su Fang from the yin-yang heavenly wheel. Su Fang slowly told them about the imminent destruction of the myriad realms and his departure from the myriad realms. Like the other masters of the myriad realms, Qiangang and Go Li's eyes revealed despair when they heard the news. Su Fang asked, the myriad realms are about to be destroyed. If you leave this world with me, perhaps one day, Qiangang, you will be able to enter the Buddhist universe beyond the heavens. As for Go Li, if you stay in my universe, I can guarantee that you will have no worries for the rest of your life. Little did they know Qiangang and Go Li were both silent. After thinking for a while, Qiangang's eyes were filled with determination as he looked at Su Fang. Su Fang, I appreciate your kindness, but I've decided to continue staying in the 9 underworlds. Su Fang raised his eyebrows. Why is that? Qiangang's expression was calm, like a Buddhist master who had achieved the Tao. Back then, I made a vow in front of Ksitigarbha Buddha to revive the divine might of Buddhism, reshape the cycle of life and death, and imitate Ksitigarbha Buddha to guard the 9 underworlds forever. Now that my vow has not been fulfilled, how can I, Qiangang, leave? Su Fang frowned. If the heavenly Tao is destroyed, your vow will also be in vain. You can't even protect yourself. Qiangang smiled, his expression firm and holy. If it's to fulfill my vow, what's there to fear about death? If I violate my vow, what's the point of living? Su Fang's heart trembled. His lips moved a few times, but he couldn't say anything to persuade him. Su Fang, take care of yourself. Qiangang put his palms together towards Su Fang, and then walked step by step into the mirage of Buddha light. Su Fang cupped his fists towards Qiangang's figure, his eyes full of respect. Some people lived for power, and some people lived for their dreams and belief. Qiangang was the latter, and so was Su Fang. Only the latter could live a wonderful life. Even if they died, they would die with vigor. When the Buddha light disappeared into the river of Netherworld, Su Fang looked at Go Li. I remember that you made a vow by the Sea of Bitterness to be the judge of the 9 underworlds forever. You won't misjudge a person or miss a soul. Don't tell me you're also planning to stay in the 9 underworlds? Go Li stammered, I'm just a small underworld judge. I've been valued by Lord and become the Lord of Heavenly Wheel. If I follow Lord in the future, I'd rather stay in the 9 underworlds and live happily. Su Fang was stunned and then he laughed. So you're addicted to being the Lord of Heavenly Wheel. If you follow me, I'll let you become the underworld judge of the netherworld samsara in the universe. You'll be the judge of life and death. Are you satisfied now? Go Li was surprised and happy. He hurriedly knelt down and bowed to Su Fang. He absorbed Go Li into his inner world, and then gave him to Mystery. At the same time, Su Fang also left a Yang spirit beside Mystery to cultivate the netherworld samsara great Tao with him. When the universe was completed, Su Fang would open the Tao Sea and condense the Tao River. The netherworld Tao River was one of the most important great Taos in the universe. Su Fang naturally couldn't be careless. Therefore, he would cultivate with Mystery from now on to prepare for the creation of the great Tao of life and death. After leaving the 9 underworlds, Su Fang returned to the universe. Next, it's time to deal with the Tao Defiance. A fierce aura surged in Su Fang's heart, and he was prepared to attack the Tao Defiance. Besides their enmity from the past, the Tao Defiance Alliance's master was the reincarnation of Dai, and there was karma between him and Su Fang. Su Fang naturally intended to eliminate the Tao Defiance Alliance's master and sever karma before he left. Moreover, Su Fang wasn't willing to see this universe be destroyed. So, eliminating the Tao Defiance Alliance would more or less delay the calamity. His fierce gaze shot towards the surroundings. At the same time, he utilized the life shrinking technique to sense the Tao Defiance Alliance's aura of destiny. OM. Along with the improvement of his cultivation and especially his comprehension of the life shrinking technique, Su Fang's ability to sense destiny had improved by 10 times. In next to no time, he sensed the aura of destiny, and it caused the Tao markings of destiny to flicker rapidly before condensing into the clear figure of the Tao Defiance Alliance's master. QL 11-inch Tao Defiance Alliance's master, I've found you. You really hid yourself well. Su Fang laughed coldly. He took a step forward, stepped into the void, and disappeared without a trace. In an instant, Su Fang traversed through layers of time and space. Even the natural barriers of heaven and earth could not stop Su Fang at all. They arrived at a void. This void seemed to be empty, and there was nothing unusual about it. Even if a peak Emperor Realm Master came here, they would not be able to sense anything. However, how could what was hidden under this unremarkable surface escape Su Fang's extraordinary perfection ability and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique? Su Fang stretched out his right hand and slammed it into the air. The power of the world of yin and yang instantly condensed into a terrifying palm print that was thousands of feet long and slammed into the void. Poof! It was as if a world had struck the void. The void trembled and a world was revealed. This was a world of death. From the outside, it looked like a huge coffin that had merged with the deathly aura of nature. If not for Su Fang's consummate ability and the divine life shrinking technique, it would have been difficult for him to discover the existence of this spacetime. Ka. Cracks began to appear on the coffin like a spider web, and they quickly spread throughout the entire world. Numerous miserable and ghastly shrill cries resounded from within the world of the coffin. After that, countless Tao Defiants flew out from the cracks in the coffin. There were truly too many Tao Defiant. They swarmed out like locusts, and they flew towards all directions as soon as they appeared. Su Fang's brows knit together. The Tao Defiance master really is cunning. Unfortunately, he encountered me, Su Fang. It turned out that Su Fang had sensed that every single one of those locust-like Tao Defiants carried the aura of the Tao Defiance master. The Tao Defiance master was clearly aware that Su Fang possessed the strength to kill him, so he'd actually executed a supreme divine ability to transform into a myriad of clones and reside in the bodies of those Tao Defiants. So long as a single Tao Defiant escaped, then he would be able to continue living in this universe. Even if it's a heaven-defying divine ability, it's still nothing in my eyes. Crush all of them. Su Fang revealed the bearing of an overlord of all worlds as he formed a seal. It seemed to be an ordinary seal, but it contained all the techniques of the universe within Su Fang's body, and it contained the might of the evolution of yin and yang within the universe. It turned out that he'd utilized the universe within him as its quintessence to execute the yin-yang transformation. Its divine might instantly enveloped the surroundings, enveloped nature, and seeped into countless planes of space and enveloped all those locust-like Tao defiance within it. His. When Su Fang executed a strength that surpassed the heavens and the earth, he was immediately rejected by nature. He felt like the energy of the entire Pan Tsong world was surging towards him with the intention of expelling him from this universe. However, the might of the yin-yang transformation caused the vast amount of natural energy that surged towards him to be swiftly dispersed and returned to its quintessence. Countless Tao defiance were obliterated by the might of the yin-yang transformation, and they transformed into natural chaotic energy. So what if the Tao Defiance Master possesses a heaven-defying divine ability? Chapter 2604. Su Fang, if I knew this would happen, then I would have stopped at nothing to kill you. Arrow of Annihilation, Falling Divine Suns. The Tao Defiance voice resounded from within Su Fang's divine might, and then his figure swiftly condensed into form. He wasn't willing to just wait for death to arrive. He withdrew his clones, condensed his main body once more, and charged at Su Fang. The image of falling divine suns flickered within his eyes, while an aura of obliteration coiled around him. His QL11A sharp green xianguang shot out from his eyes. If the heavenly exalt hadn't intended to refine the chaos divine mirror with the 9 suns all those years ago, then you would have the chance to shoot down the 9 suns. Let me see how you'll shoot down my 9 suns after being revived by the Tao Defiance. Su Fang laughed coldly in a domineering manner as he separated his hands, and then rays of red light shot out from his palms and swiftly condensed into 9 divine suns. These 9 divine suns were formed by Su Fang fusing with the origin yang mirror and releasing the energy of the 9 suns within the mirror. His. At this moment, the 9 suns that Su Fang released weren't just the energy of the chaos divine mirror, they were even fused with the energy of his own world of yin and yang. It was a high-level energy that surpassed the universe, and its might was peerless. Before the divine might of the 9 suns, the Tao Defiant's formidable ability to shoot down the divine suns was like ice that had encountered scorching flames. It melted layer by layer, and most of its might had been exhausted by the time it arrived in front of Su Fang. Su Fang didn't dare act carelessly. He opened his mouth and spat out a strand of divine flames of the 9 suns, and it condensed into a flaming cloud blade that collided with the arrow. A huge explosion ensued, and the arrow shattered and transformed into nothingness. The Tao Defiant's strongest attack had been easily dispersed by Su Fang. You shot down the 9 suns all those years ago, so I'll use them to kill you today and sever the karma between us. Su Fang's voice that was filled with killing intent resounded as he utilized the 9 suns to release divine flames of the 9 suns that enveloped the Tao Defiance and started burning madly. The Tao Defiance roars that were filled with unwillingness resounded as the Tao Defiance were forcefully refined into ash. The leader of the Tao Defiance had perished just like that, and Su Fang could be considered to have put an end to the karma of destiny. Su Fang withdrew his divine aura. At the same time, the chaotic aura refined by the power of the yin-yang transformation was absorbed into Su Fang's body, making up for the huge consumption caused by this attack. Most of it was consumed to resist the repulsion of the universe. Buzz buzz buzz. The origin sacred mirror, which had fused with Su Fang, trembled in the depths of his body. It seemed to be very active, and became closer to Su Fang. Su Fang pondered for a moment, and then understood. The origin yang mirror of the chaos divine mirror was refined from the 9 divine suns, and it was connected by karma with the Tao Defiance. So, Su Fang's act of killing the Tao Defiance could be considered to have avenged the 9 divine suns and severed karma, so he obtained the chaos divine mirror's acknowledgement. Shi Xian Daozu's voice suddenly resounded in Su Fang's mind. You've exhausted so much energy to kill a half-step transcendent Tao Defiant with the strength of a transcendent realm expert. It really isn't worth it. Su Fang replied respectfully. Disciple's strength is weak, so please provide me with guidance, Master. What sort of existence was shi Xiandaozu? Even if he only gave a few pointers, it would be a supreme fortune for Su Fang. Su Fang was only a nominal disciple of shi Xiandaozu right now, and this so-called nominal disciple was just a nominal disciple. His master would provide him with guidance if he was in a good mood, but if his master was in a bad mood, he might just toss him aside and never remember him. Now that shi Xiandaozu was in the mood to provide him with guidance, Su Fang would naturally not miss such a good opportunity. You've cultivated the 9 transformations of the 9 suns, and that's the foundation of your cultivation. You can only continue on this path. I'm unable to help you change anything, and the only thing I can pass down to you are some divine abilities. Will my cultivation in the future be based on the 9 transformations of the 9 suns? Do not underestimate the 9 transformations of the 9 suns. This method comes from the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra. How can it be an ordinary method? Master has also studied this method. The 9 transformations of the 9 suns of the Limitless Sutra of the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra can be called a supreme method in the Jiuxuan divine realm. When you cultivate 81 yang veins, your cultivation will undergo a great transformation. At that time, you will know the extraordinariness of this method. Su Fang hadn't expected shi Xiandaozu to hold the 9 transformations of the 9 suns in such high esteem. At the same time, he was filled with anticipation. He didn't know what kind of changes would occur to him after he cultivated 81 yang veins. He then asked, Master, what kind of heaven-defying method is the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra that even Master places such importance on it? Right now, you do not have the right to know the origins of the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra. Even if you know, it will not be of any benefit to you. On the contrary, it will affect your Tao heart. Su Fang suppressed his doubts and asked, Master said that when I cultivate 81 yang veins, the 9 transformations of the 9 suns will undergo a transformation. Isn't 81 yang veins the end of the 9 suns of the 9 suns? What is transformation? Change is evolution. It is endless and has no end. The number 9 is perfection, and it is also the beginning of a higher level. The 9 suns of the 9 suns of the 9 suns of the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth, and the world in your body. According to Master's calculations, after the 9 suns of the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth are complete, your Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth will evolve to a new height. This is the Tao Palace of Jiuxuan that the experts of the Jiuxuan divine realm would flock to. Jiuxuan Tao Palace? This was another name that confused Su Fang. Su Fang, although this ancestor is an eternal existence in the Jiuxuan divine realm, you will not be able to complete your task once and for all. This ancestor gave you the status of an in-name disciple only to give you a protective talisman. This will prevent you from dying before you become an expert. As for your future achievements, it will all depend on your own efforts. This disciple understands. Your cultivation is based on the 9 suns. For this reason, Master will impart to you an extreme yang divine ability called the Extreme Tao Black Yang Technique. Not only will it greatly benefit your future cultivation of the 9 suns of the 9 suns of the 9 suns, this divine ability also contains the method to use the Extreme Yang Tao. However, you will need to comprehend it and combine it with your own heavenly Tao to be able to unleash extraordinary power. The 9 suns of the 9 suns of the 9 suns of the heavenly Tao is the foundation of your heavenly Tao. You must cultivate it diligently. As for the mysterious solution of heaven and the life-shrinking technique, they are the guarantee that you will comprehend the heavenly Tao and control fate. Master can only teach you these. At your cultivation level, everything depends on your own comprehension. If I teach you too much, it will instead affect your future cultivation. As soon as shi Xiandaozu's voice fell, a faintly discernible aura suddenly rushed into Su Fang's consciousness. There was no need for Su Fang to deliberately decipher it. He immediately came to a realization, and some mysterious words appeared in his mind. After carefully comprehending it, Su Fang finally understood the vastness and profoundness of this divine ability. Just as Shi Xian Daozu had said, this divine ability, called the Extreme Dao Black Yang Technique, was an extreme Yang divine ability. Not only could it extract the essence of the Yang power from fire, thunder, and other extreme Yang natural energies, it also contained the method to evolve the Yang power to the extreme and release great power. It was worthy of being a peerless divine ability from Shi Xian Daozu. This divine ability could evolve into various Qigong forms. It was really extraordinary. However, Su Fang needed to constantly comprehend and understand the extreme Dao Black Yang technique. It made Su Fang feel that it was as mysterious and vast as the heavenly secret life shrinking technique and the heavenly secret unravel. Su Fang was very happy to have obtained a peerless divine ability. Then Su Fang used his great perfection ability and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to sense the remaining experts of the Tao Defiant Alliance. Then, he killed them one by one without mercy. The Tao Defiants are no longer a problem. The only ones left are the devil race. The ancestor devil was one of the top experts in the Pan Tsung universe. Last time, he had escaped from the Advent Divine Palace. Su Fang would not let him stay before leaving this universe. 10 days later, Su Fang returned to the Square Heaven World in the Hunyuan Heaven World. In the dark world of the myriad worlds, Su Fang found the ancestor devil. It did not take much effort for him to kill the ancestor devil and dozens of devil race experts and demonic beasts. Their corpses were all sealed in his inner world. In the following time, Su Fang began to settle into a state of cultivation. He mainly cultivated the 9 Yang 9 transformations. Su Fang wanted to cultivate 81 Yang meridians before leaving this universe. The Heavenly Secret Life Shrinking Technique and the Heavenly Secret Unravel were two peerless divine abilities that could deduce the workings of heaven and fate. They were also very important to Su Fang. The other was the Extreme Dao Black Yang Technique that he had obtained from Shi Xian Daozu. As for the other techniques and divine abilities from the Pan Tsung universe, they were no longer suitable for Su Fang's current height. Cultivation had no concept of time. When Su Fang came out of seclusion, more than 8,000 years had passed. Now that Su Fang was cultivating in the Hall of Spring and Autumn or with the help of the Universe Cart, they were no longer useful. These 8,000 years were the real time in the Pan Tsung universe. What disappointed Su Fang was that he still could not form the 80th Yang meridian after 8,000 years of cultivation. There was only a thin layer of barrier between him and the birth of the 80th Yang meridian, but he was unable to succeed. What he lacked wasn't consolidation and accumulation, but opportunity. In the Pan Tsung universe, it was very difficult to find a spirit item or energy that could allow Su Fang to form the Yang meridian. It's not like there's no opportunity for me to form the Yang meridian. Su Fang looked up at the divine sun in the sky. His eyes shone brightly. In the divine sun, there was a peerless big goblin with wings hidden, the golden crow. He also had to refine peerless treasures like the treasure pool and the true Yang evil vanquishing sword. It's about time. It's time to deal with the golden crow. Su Fang's eyes flashed with sharp killing intent. Then, he summoned the ancestral dragon. As soon as he heard that he was going to suppress the golden crow, the ancestral dragon immediately became spirited. However, when he thought of the golden crow hiding in the divine sun, the treasure pool, and the supreme Xian bow of the true Yang evil vanquishing sword, the ancestral dragon hesitated and was afraid. Together with the ancestral dragon, Su Fang went to the sky and used his great perfection ability to sense the myriad of worlds. Since Su Fang announced the news, countless cultivators rushed to the Hunyuan Heaven World, ready to leave the Pan Tsung universe with Su Fang. There were also many cultivators, but due to their lack of strength, the journey was long and dangerous, so they couldn't rush over in a short time. Su Fang heard some noise through his great perfection hearing. Including the imperial people, many ancient divine clans, especially those who had a grudge with Su Fang, were skeptical of Su Fang's words. They were also worried that Su Fang would take the opportunity to annex the major forces, so they decided to stay in the Pan Song universe. Everyone had their own aspirations, so Su Fang didn't go back and force them. "Old dragon, let's go," Su Fang ordered the ancestral dragon. Chapter 2605. Ancestral Gragon flew up with Su Fang and quickly approached the divine sun in the sky. The closer they got, the terrifyingly high temperature seemed to melt the space around them. Ancestral Gragon had no choice but to defend himself. His aura was constantly being burned and suppressed. The divine sun's high temperature and terrifying divine power could even melt a venerable emperor. To ancestral Gragon, it was just a slight discomfort. The divine sun in front of him had turned into a huge fireball. One could see the terrifying flames surging within it. Sensing the terrifying power of the divine sun, ancestral Gragon was also very wary. He had no choice but to defend himself with all his might. Su Fang suddenly said, "Old dragon, stop." Ancestral Gragon asked in surprise, "What is it? Wouldn't it be a pity if such an excellent cultivation environment were to be wasted?" Su Fang actually planned to stay here and use the power of the divine sun to cultivate. Su Fang cultivated the 9 Yang 9 transformations and merged with the origin sacred mirror. The power of the divine sun could not threaten him at all. Instead, it made him feel very close to it. All these years, he had been comprehending the extreme Dao Black Yang tactic. However, the extreme Dao Black Yang tactic was a peerless divine power created by Daozu of Shixian. It required the help of the natural energy of heaven and earth to cultivate. In the Pan Song universe, where could he find the essence of energy that could cultivate the peerless divine ability, extreme Dao Black Yang incantation? Now that he was near the divine sun, Su Fang tried to see if he could cultivate the extreme Dao Black Yang tactic. Su Fang activated his mental cultivation method. The divine power of the extreme Dao Black Yang tactic began to engulf his entire body. The surrounding divine sun aura quickly swept towards Su Fang. He was quickly swallowed by a scarlet sea of fire. The light emitted by the divine sun also suddenly dimmed. "This brat, isn't he afraid of being burned alive?" Ancestral Gragon was shocked by this scene. He quickly distanced himself from Su Fang. He did not expect that Su Fang would use the extreme Dao Black Yang tactic to merge and refine the divine sun aura into an extremely pure and high-grade pure Yang essence. It was not an ordinary pure Yang essence. It was an energy aura that was even higher than Su Fang's 9 Yang energy. It was the so-called mysterious Yang essence. The power of the extreme Dao Mystic Yang tactic was to refine the most Yang energy into Mystic Yang essence. After Su Fang had absorbed the vast divine sun aura, he had only managed to refine a strand of mysterious sun essence. However, he did not expect that it was this strand of Xianyang essence that was absorbed by Su Fang's Yang meridian that caused a commotion in the Heaven and Earth Dao Palace where Su Fang was in the 9 Yang 9 transformation state. Qi. Su Fang split his consciousness to the Heaven and Earth Dao Palace with a troubled heart. He discovered that beside the 79 Yang meridians, the 80th Yang meridian that was being attacked was mostly burning with Yang energy flames. Originally, I thought that I wouldn't be able to form a new Yang meridian in this Pan Song universe. I didn't expect that I would be able to form a new Yang meridian just after cultivating the extreme Dao Black Yang technique. The extreme Dao Black Yang technique really deserves to be called a peerless divine ability. Extraordinary! Su Fang almost cried tears of joy. He did not expect that he would accidentally form a new Yang meridian. In fact, the birth of this Yang meridian was not an accident. When he was in the internal space of the Heavenly Venerate's Yang spirit, the Heavenly Venerate had controlled the primordial Yang mirror and tried to devour Su Fang, causing Su Fang to form the 79th Yang meridian. The 80th yang meridian was also about to be formed. Now that he was cultivating the extreme Tao Black Yang technique and refining the divine sun aura to obtain the mysterious sun essence, he had an opportunity that allowed the birth of this yang meridian. He immediately stopped cultivating the extreme Tao Black Yang technique and gathered all the yang energy in the yang meridian, as well as the world tree and the world fragments, yin-yang world origin force and the mystic world origin force to attack this meridian. Su Fang's entire heaven and earth Tao palace shook violently. Under the impact of the tsunami-like frenzied attacks, the meridian trembled violently and expanded as if it was about to explode. Finally, after a violent tremor, the flames were quickly extinguished and the meridian turned into a jade-like yang meridian. The 80th yang meridian was successfully born. He was only one yang meridian away from the 9 suns' 9 transformations to the 9 suns' great perfection. Su Fang was filled with joy as he urged all the energy to flow into this newly born yang meridian. The 80th yang meridian faced the 79th yang meridian, and the two were connected head to tail. In this way, Su Fang's heaven and earth Tao palace became a vast Tao palace formed by the world tree and the 9-layered yang energy vortex. Unfortunately, he was still one yang meridian away from the 9 suns' great perfection. When that time came, the 9 suns' great perfection would reach its peak and an even more shocking transformation would occur. The birth of a new yang meridian not only raised Su Fang's yang energy to new heights, but after absorbing the mysterious sun essence, his yang energy also underwent some qualitative changes and became even more profound and unfathomable. He continued to use the extreme Tao Black Yang technique to refine the divine sun aura. At the same time, he also used the 9 suns' great perfection to replenish the yang energy left by the birth of this new yang meridian. Su Fang was only focused on cultivating, but he did not notice that as he used the extreme Tao Black Yang technique, the divine sun aura was continuously being devoured by him, causing the divine sun in the sky to rapidly dim. Ancestral Gregon saw this scene from afar and thought to himself, Su Fang is really ruthless. He is about to leave this universe, but he did not even let go of the last divine Sunday. He is obviously going to devour the entire divine sun. Ruthless, too ruthless. No wonder the cultivators in the myriad of worlds call him Su Huang. If I follow him, my days of misfortune are still to come. One day, my blood essence will be sucked dry by him. Ancestral Gregon was not the only one who was trembling in fear. There was also a big goblin who was even more frightened than Ancestral Gregon. It was the golden crow that was hiding inside the divine sun. Damn it, this human brat really deserves to die. If I had known earlier, I would have killed him at all costs back in the Dark Casting Palace. What should I do now back in the Advent Divine Palace? The Golden Crow had witnessed Su Fang and Shu Wanjin working together to activate the Origin Sacred Mirror to kill its incarnation. It had been so frightened that it had fled for its life and hid inside the Divine Sun. When Su Fang entered the celestial Worthy Mountain, the Golden Crow had once again witnessed the terrifying power of the Origin Sacred Mirror. That was why it had controlled the Divine Sun to try and stop Su Fang. Su Fang was now near the Divine Sun, and his goal was naturally to attack the Golden Crow. Looking at Su Fang's stance, it seemed that he was going to devour the entire Divine Sunday. How could the Golden Crow not be afraid? Bear with it a little longer. I don't believe that this human brat can devour the entire Divine Sunday. As long as he enters the Divine Sun and uses the Divine Sun, the treasure refining pool, and the true Yang evil vanquishing sword, I don't believe that I can't kill him. The Golden Crow continued to hide inside the Divine Sun, using the Divine Sun's power to observe Su Fang's every move. Su Fang was in a state of cultivation. Not only was he cultivating the extreme Tao Black Yang technique, but he was also comprehending how to use it. About 300 years. Bang! Su Fang suddenly opened his eyes. After forming a seal, a surge of divine power surged out from his body, turning into a halo that quickly spread out. In a flash, it enveloped the entire divine Sunday. The divine power quickly seeped into the divine sun, and it quickly shrank. Although it shrank in size, the divine sun's aura became purer and more advanced. Su Fang was actually using an exceptional divine sun to refine the divine sun that nourished all life in the world. It was the divine sun refining technique that he had comprehended from the extreme Tao Black Yang technique. This divine sun refining technique was just the lowest level of divine sun refining technique that Su Fang had comprehended from the extreme Tao Black Yang technique. Its use was also very simple. It was used to control and refine fire and lightning elemental energy. The so-called low level was, of course, a relative term. However, it was extremely domineering. When cultivated to the extreme, one could control any fire or lightning elemental energy in the world, and refine them to become purer and more advanced. It had the miraculous ability to turn something rotten into something magical. At this moment, Su Fang was actually using the divine sun refining technique to control and refine the divine sun. When ancestral Gragon saw this, he was instantly stunned. The golden crow inside the divine sun felt that its control over the divine sun was being forcefully taken away by Su Fang. Not only the divine sun, but it was also being refined. This time, the golden crow was scared out of its wits. In a moment of desperation, it started to use the true yang evil slaying sword. Qi. A huge golden sword Qi that was thousands of feet long radiated a sharp divine power that could incinerate and destroy everything in the world. It released a powerful aura that caused the world to change color. It contained a boundless majestic aura, and it forcefully tore the flames of the divine sun into two halves. It shattered and melted Su Fang's divine sun refining technique. Whoosh! The treasure refining pool flew out from the divine sun, and the golden crow's figure gradually rose from the pool. A flying sword floated above its head, emitting a golden divine light. Its aura was sharp and mighty, as if it could tear the universe apart and kill all evil. True yang evil slaying sword. The golden crow gloomily shouted, "Human brat, I spared your life in the dark casting palace, but you don't know what's good for you. You purposely came here to die?" Ancestral Gragon loudly mocked, "You feathered beast, you were the one who was so scared that you hid inside the divine sun like a turtle. Yet, you're still trying to flatter yourself. You're really making me laugh to death." Although Ancestral Gragon had not recovered to his peak state, he was definitely not in the severely injured state that he was in when he had just escaped from the Advent Palace. In addition, the golden crow could no longer use the divine sun's divine sun refining technique, and it was also restrained by the treasure refining pool. Ancestral Gragon was naturally not afraid of anything. QL11 Su Fang domineeringly shouted, "Golden crow, you have no way to escape now. I'll give you two choices." The golden crow disdainfully sneered, "You want me to submit to you? I've been a slave to the heavenly lord enough. Why would I submit to a human like you, like that old loach?" Su Fang laughed involuntarily. "You've misunderstood. I don't mean to make you a slave. What do you want? The first choice is to obediently hand over the true sun evil vanquishing sword and the treasure refining pool. Then I'll kill you." The golden crow's eyes burned with flames. "What's the second choice?" Su Fang casually laughed. "The second choice is simpler. I'll directly suppress you, then swallow you alive and let you die in fear." "Human brat, you dare to trick me!" The golden crow let out an angry roar, and the divine sun trembled from the roar. Torrential flames rolled out from the treasure refining pool below it, and 10 divine sun illusions rose into the sky, forming a world that shackled Su Fang and Ancestral Gragon. Buzz. Chapter 2606. The golden crow desperately activated the treasure refining pool and the true yang evil slaying sword, forcing Su Fang to go all out. The treasure refining pool was fine. After all, it came from the Pan Song universe, But the true yang evil slaying sword was a xian bao that surpassed this universe and was not a magic treasure. Even if Su Fong had the ability to crush transcendence, he had to be wary. Purple Chi Dharma Spirit. Su Fong activated the Purple Chi Dharma Spirit, and the supreme power of controlling heaven and earth and magic treasures burst out, causing the true yang evil slaying sword to tremble and be suppressed by the monstrous divine power. However, after a moment, the sword chi of the true yang evil slaying sword suddenly became blazing, and even the divine power of the Purple Chi Dharma Spirit could not control it. Su Fong's divine light changed again. The Golden Crow laughed proudly. Human boy, even if your strength is heaven-defying, you will become a dead soul under my supreme Xian Bao. Saber of life, cut off fate. Seeing the sword chi of the true yang evil slaying sword coming at him, Su Fong immediately activated the life-shrinking technique, and the Tao aura condensed into the saber of life that cut off fate. Chi. The illusory and ethereal saber of life did not slash at the Golden Crow. With the Golden Crow's strength, it was not qualified for Su Fong to directly cut off its fate with the saber of life. It had only activated 1/10 of its power, and the life force consumed was completely within the range that it could bear. This saber cut off the fate connection between the Golden Crow and the true yang evil slaying sword, which was equivalent to cutting off its control of the true yang evil slaying sword. The Golden Crow instantly lost its connection with the true yang evil slaying sword, and its smug smile suddenly froze. At the same time that Su Fong used the saber of life, his body quickly turned into a state of nothingness. Before the true yang evil slaying sword's fierce attack, he instantly transcended the shackles of heaven and earth and appeared in the chaotic void beyond the heavens. The sword chi actually followed Su Fong's breath and chased Su Fong to the heavens. Su Fong snorted coldly and released the heavenly Tao Dharma form. A huge Dharma tree in front of him, and a yang spirit merged with the black and white fruit on top of the tree, erupting the power of yin-yang change, colliding with the sword chi. The primal chaos void trembled and tore apart from the collision. The true yang evil exterminating sword's sword energy finally exhausted its power and dissipated into nothingness. Good treasure, truly a good treasure. As expected of the Xian Bao that surpasses all magical treasures. QL11 Su Fong saw the power of the true sun evil slaying sword and wiped the sweat off his forehead. His eyes shone brightly as he returned to the vicinity of the divine sun. The moment he appeared, Su Fong reached out to grab the true yang evil punishing sword. The Golden Crow was both shocked and angry. He was about to use his divine power to attack Su Fong. "You feathered beast, this ancestor will play with you." Ancestral Dragon smirked as he charged towards Golden Crow. One of them was the first divine dragon born in the world, while the other was a divine bird born from the divine sun. Both of them had the ability to transcend the heavens and earth. At this moment, they were engaged in an earth-shaking battle near the divine sun. Although the true yang evil punishing sword's destiny connection with the Golden Crow had been severed, the Golden Crow could not activate it. However, the sword's spirit inside was still there and was trying to break free from Su Fong's control. "Celestial treasure, you'd rather submit to the feathered gold crow than submit to me?" Su Fong used a trace of the power of the thunder of destiny and roared at the true yang evil punishing sword. The original soul of the true yang evil punishing sword was formed from celestial treasure. Although it had been devoured by the true yang evil punishing sword, it still retained a certain amount of self-awareness. Coupled with the terrifying power of destiny that could wipe out all destiny, the original soul trembled and stopped resisting. It allowed Su Fong to seal it and then put it into the heaven and earth Tao Palace. The supreme Xian Bao true yang evil punishing sword was finally in his hands. Su Fong was grinning from ear to ear. In the Advent Palace, the Golden Crow was as cunning as a loach. When it saw that the situation was not good, it slipped away. This made Su Fong regret it for a long time. Now that the true young evil punishing sword was finally in his hands, how could he not be happy? This trip had not been in vain. First, he had formed a young meridian. Then, he had mastered a peerless ability from the extreme Dao Black Yang technique. Now, he had obtained the true young evil punishing sword. And his gains were far more than that. Su Fong looked at the golden crow as if he was looking at a precious treasure. The golden crow, who was fighting with the ancestral dragon, could not help but shiver. A bad feeling, as if doomsday was coming, instantly shrouded its heart. Yang refinement, profound art. Su Fong used the yang refinement, profound art again. A halo of divine power enveloped the treasure refining pool and the golden crow. Boom! Under the terrifying divine power that could control and refine all yang energy, the flame of the treasure refining pool was suddenly compressed. The divine power quickly penetrated and refined at the same time. Even the golden crow, a fire element divine bird, lost control of its Yao energy under the power of Su Fong's yang refinement profound art and was quickly refined. The golden crow and the treasure refining pool were extraordinary, but the ability that Su Fong used was not only from the Jiuxuan God realm, but also from the Daozu of Shi Xian. How powerful was it? Even the ancestral dragon was affected by the divine power. While it was not as serious as the golden crow, it made the old dragon feel like it was about to be refined. The old dragon trembled in fear and wondered if Su Fong was going to use this chance to kill it. The treasure refining pool was quickly refined by Su Fong's divine power. It had originally been 100 zhang wide, but now it was less than 10 zhang wide. At the same time, the golden crow lost control of the treasure refining pool. Su Fong easily sucked the treasure refining pool into his body. Another treasure was in his hands. The treasure refining pool was refined from the Tang Valley by the Celestial Venerable. It was extraordinary to be able to refine the true yang evil punishing sword. After obtaining such a treasure, Su Fong smiled happily again. He shouted to the ancestral dragon, "Old dragon, I leave this feathered beast to you." At least half of the golden crow's power came from the treasure refining pool, and it could use the treasure refining pool to quickly recover. Now that even the treasure refining pool was taken by Su Fong, it was equivalent to losing at least half of its power. Adding on that its Yao energy was being refined by Su Fong's divine power, how could it be a match for the ancestral dragon? Many thanks. The ancestral dragon and the golden crow had a deep grudge. Now that he finally had a chance to trample the golden crow, he was abnormally excited. Boom, boom, boom. The ancestral dragon transformed into his true form and engaged in a frenzied battle with the golden crow near the divine sun. No, it was crushing and trampling. Under the ancestral dragon's frenzied attacks, the golden crow could only passively take a beating. Its dazzling feathers kept falling off, and blood kept spurting out. Its blood-curdling screams reverberated throughout heaven and earth. Ancestral dragon, you shameless bastard! If you have the guts, fight me alone. Surrender. I am willing to surrender. Spare me. At first, the golden crow was very stubborn. In the end, it could not take it anymore and started to beg Su Fong for mercy. Su Fong sneered domineeringly. A shameless big goblin like you is not qualified to be my subordinate. You should just obediently accept your death. The golden crow's power was indeed extraordinary. It was comparable to the ancestral dragon. However, this demon was different from the ancestral dragon. The ancestral dragon was arrogant and unruly, but the golden crow was not only arrogant but also ambitious. It was even more sinister and cunning than the ancestral dragon. Why would Su Fong keep such a big goblin by his side? Moreover, Su Fong planned to use the golden crow's essence to nurture the dragon bird. Su Fong handed all the ancestral fiends and demon race experts to Gue Gue. When Gue Gue devoured all the corpses of these demon race experts, its strength would reach astonishing height. Even if it could not reach the transcendence realm, it would still have terrifying strength comparable to a peak sovereign. The golden crow was left to the dragon bird. Gui Gui and the dragon bird were like Su Fang's two sons. No matter how loyal his subordinates were, how could they compare to his own sons? The earth-shattering battle near the divine sun shook the myriad worlds. Seeing the ancestral dragon and the golden crow's huge figures and the terrifying divine might that deterred all living things in the world, all living things in the world trembled. The battle lasted for 3 days. In the end, the golden crow's feathers were all plucked out by the ancestral dragon, and it became a bald chicken. Its demon chi and primordial spirit were also refined by Su Fang. Although it was still alive, it had completely lost its consciousness, as if it had died. Su Fang absorbed the golden crow's corpse into his body and felt a wave of joy in his heart. However, this battle had also consumed a lot of yang energy. This was the drawback of using the extreme black yang technique. With his current cultivation, it was difficult for him to continue using it. At the same time, using the divine life shrinking technique also consumed some of his lifespan. However, compared to the huge gains this time, this loss was nothing at all. The ancestral dragon had finally gotten rid of his mortal enemy. He let out a series of dragon roars filled with joy as he roamed in the sky, once again causing the myriad worlds to tremble. Su Fang looked at the divine sun. After pondering for a while, he arrived above the divine sun in a flash. This universe is, after all, the place where I was born and grew up. How can I watch it be destroyed? Although the heavenly Tao is not benevolent, all living things in the myriad worlds are innocent. I can't move all living things into my universe. Then, I will do something within my power for this Pan-Song universe. At least, I will delay the outbreak of the catastrophe. If I have enough strength in the future, I will come back and completely eliminate the evil god. After muttering to himself, Su Fang began to form seals and used the yang refinement mysterious technique again. It turned out that he was planning to use a supreme divine ability to refine the divine sun and cause it to transform. The greatest ability of the yang refinement mysterious technique was to refine extreme yang items, turning something rotten into something magical and refining it into an even higher level extreme yang essence. The divine sun that had been refined by Su Fang contained a portion of the divine sun aura that came from beyond the heavens. In this way, the divine aura released by the divine sun could suppress the 7 blood suns and greatly delay the spread of the catastrophe. At the same time, the refined divine sun could also quickly eliminate the death chi and evil chi in the universe, making all living things stronger. Chi chi chi. Under Su Fang's refining divine aura, the divine sun was constantly being compressed. Like the impurities that seeped out during a cultivator's advancement, black impurities constantly seeped out from the divine sun and fell into the universe. The entire process lasted for 30 years. Su Fang also paid a huge price for this. Fortunately, he had the treasure refining pool and the golden crow's essence to replenish it. He kept recovering along the way and finally managed to hold on. In the end, the divine sun was refined until it was only 1/10 of its original size. However, the divine sun aura that it released was 10 times stronger than before. It also contained a high-level extreme yang aura. The 7 blood suns in the sky were suppressed by the divine sun until their bloody glow dimmed. The death chi in the universe also quickly thinned out. Under the illumination of the divine sun, all living things were full of vitality. Chapter 2607. As the divine sun was refined by Su Fang again, the entire world had undergone earth-shaking changes. What was the meaning of changing the world? What Su Fang was doing was called changing the day. Old dragon, let's go back. Su Fang transmitted his voice to the ancestral Gregon. When the ancestral Gregon saw Su Fang refining the divine sun from afar, he was so shocked that he stopped flying. Refining the divine sun, what kind of amazing means was this? This was almost the means of a supreme celestial master. At this time, the ancestral Gragon was completely impressed by Su Fong. At this time, Su Fong had the strength to defeat the ancestral Gragon even without the Beast Tamer token. How could the ancestral Gragon not be impressed by such an amazing increase in strength in such a short time? Su Fong stood on the ancestral Gragon's back with his hands behind his back. He was like a golden rainbow in the sky, swooping down toward the Hunyuan heaven realm. Many powerhouses had witnessed Su Fong refining the divine sun and riding the ancestral Gragon to travel the world. This time, they saw Su Fong's true strength. With Su Fong's current strength, he is even stronger than the Mountain Guardian back then. In the 10,000 worlds, there is no one who can match him. It's ridiculous that Di Hao and those emperors still want to deal with Su Fong. They really don't know what's good for them. They only have themselves to blame for being killed by Su Fong. Everyone respected and feared Su Fong. At this time, Su Fong was no longer an overlord, but an existence like the supreme celestial way. Su Fong returned to the heaven realm and entered the Saint Temple. At this time, there was still some time before he left the Pan Song universe 10,000 years ago. He could use this time to integrate the treasure refining pool and the true Yang evil slaying sword. Especially the Xian Bao of the true Yang evil slaying sword. Other than the natal divine artifact Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda and the Hunyuan Sacred Mirror, he could only use the true Yang evil slaying sword when he went to the Jiuxuan divine realm. The other divine artifacts born in this world were useless. Taking out the true Yang evil slaying sword, he permeated his blood essence and the power of the yin-yang world into the space. As soon as Su Fong's thought appeared in the vast space, the sword spirit transformed from celestial treasure's primordial spirit came through the matrix. Looking at celestial treasure, Su Fong couldn't help but sigh. Celestial treasure had always wanted to become a powerhouse and refused to submit to Su Fong. However, in the end, it became the original spirit of the Xian Bao and fell into Su Fong's control. It had to be said that its fate was determined. QL11 Su Fong nodded and said, Tianbao, you are now a sword spirit. This is your fate and no one can change it. However, I can promise you that if you follow me, Su Fong, you will definitely be able to shine brightly in the vast outer heavens. The celestial treasure's eyes lit up for a moment, but soon returned to its usual cold demeanor. It said indifferently, I am the sword spirit of the true Yang evil slaying sword, not some celestial treasure. Although you control the true Yang evil punishing sword, you do not have the qualifications to become my master. Wait until you fuse with the true Yang evil punishing sword and have the ability to control me, then you will have the qualifications to make me submit. With that, the sword spirit's figure flashed and disappeared into the vast array space. Su Fong laughed involuntarily. He didn't expect this sword spirit to be so arrogant and retain the character of celestial treasure. Next, Su Fong began to fuse with the true Yang evil punishing sword. At the same time, Su Fong used a lot of energy to fuse and further refine the treasure refining pool. Although the treasure refining pool was not in Xian Bao, it was definitely not inferior to an ordinary Xian Bao. Not only could it provide Su Fong with an endless supply of pure yang and fire essence, but it could also be used to refine magic treasures. Of course, Su Fong wouldn't refine any magic treasures. Instead, he continued to refine the treasure refining pool with the yang transformation technique. After the treasure refining pool had the quality of an Xian Bao, he would use it to refine the Xian Bao. Next, it was time to deal with the Golden Crow's corpse. Su Fong used the Yang transformation technique to refine the Golden Crow's body and spiritual pearl to refine the impurities. What was left was pure life essence and high-level energy essence. The Golden Crow was a transcendent expert comparable to the ancestral dragon. The dragon bird couldn't swallow it directly. Otherwise, it would be destroyed by the Golden Crow's terrifying high-level energy. Su Fang let the dragon bird enter the treasure refining pool to absorb the sun and fire essence in the treasure refining pool. At the same time, Su Fang once again extorted hundreds of drops of dragon blood from the ancestral dragon. He also asked the temple emperor to go to the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan to find the remaining Divine Phoenix blood essence of the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan and give it to the dragon bird. In this way, it was impossible for the dragon bird's strength to not improve quickly. It wouldn't be long before it had supreme strength that surpassed the heavens and earth. During this time, Su Fang also swallowed a part of the Golden Crow's energy essence and tried to break through the 81st Yang meridian. The result was that the Yang energy became more abundant. The 81st Yang meridian that had been trying to break through did not show any signs of activity. Su Fang completely gave up. It seemed that it was impossible to perfect the Yang meridian in the Pand Song universe. In the blink of an eye, the day to leave the Pand Song universe arrived. Su Fang came to the main hall of the Saint Temple. Su Fang, Su Yaotian, Xuanxin, and other close relatives, as well as Su Fang's friends, clansmen, and many of his close subordinates, all gathered together. Everyone also knew that they were about to leave this universe. They were looking forward to it, excited, and a little reluctant at the same time. This universe will eventually be destroyed. And because of me, it will not allow you to survive. So, I have to take everyone away. I promise everyone that it won't be long before I cultivate a world like this universe. You will be free in the universe that belongs to me and will live forever. Su Fang's words filled everyone with anticipation. Then, Su Fang sucked everyone into his inner world and sent them into the internal space of the Builder Tree. Su Fang's inner world had the power to cultivate a universe like the Pand Song universe. Although it could allow life to live and survive, it was not an excellent place for cultivators to cultivate. However, the Builder Tree contained an astonishing amount of wood element and the essence of the world's power. It was difficult to find such a good cultivation ground in the Pand Song universe. Su Fang naturally wanted to leave it for his family, friends, and subordinate. After settling Su Yaotian and the others, Shi Xian Daozu suddenly spoke in his mind. Moving the cultivators and big goblin of the Pand Song universe to your universe is not a long-term plan. Su Fang was surprised and hurriedly asked, Master, is there anything wrong with disciple doing this? Of course not. Shi Xian Daozu said slowly. Think about it carefully. Forget about those big goblin. Those cultivators cultivate various great Dao. Now that they are living in your universe, it is equivalent to changing the heavenly Dao. The great Daos that they cultivate must be dominated by you. Unless they are like you and can surpass the shackles of heaven and earth to cultivate the true heavenly Dao. Otherwise, it will be difficult for them to make a breakthrough in their cultivation. Su Fang had never realized this and asked in shock, What should I do? It's not that there is no way. That is, you have to increase your cultivation as soon as possible. Not only can you cultivate the heavenly Tao Dharma body, but you can also leave the inner world and universe in the chaos void, just like the Pand Song universe. When you cultivate to a high enough level, your inner world and universe will be compatible with the supreme heavenly Tao of the Jiuxuan. Those cultivators and big goblin will cultivate your heavenly Tao, which is equivalent to cultivating the heavenly Tao of the Jiuxuan. There will be no more restrictions. However, I'm afraid that they won't be able to wait until that day. They were born in the Pand Song universe and have a fate karma with the Pand Song universe. Once the Pand Song universe is destroyed, those who were born in the Pand Song universe will all die. This is their destiny. Unless they are like you and cut off the fate karma with the Pand Song universe and transcend the shackles of the Pand Song universe. Shi Xian Daozu's words made Su Fang's heart sink to the bottom. He originally thought that he could escape the calamity by bringing his family, friends, and subordinates out of the Pand Song universe. He didn't expect that he still couldn't change their fate. However, it was normal after thinking about it. Su Fang could cut off the shackles of fate and control his own fate. But how could he cut off the fate of everyone and change their predestined fate? After thinking for a long time, Su Fang said resolutely, "It's true that I can't change everyone's fate now. However, it's not that I don't have a way. When I have enough strength, I can return to the Pan Tsang universe and kill the Heavenly Lord Pan Tsang and the evil god. Then, I can take over this universe. In this way, this universe can avoid destruction. The cultivators and Big Goblin that I moved into my inner world can also avoid the fate of being destroyed together with the Pan Tsang universe. It's not that easy to devour a universe. Moreover, it's very difficult to kill the evil god. Even Shi Xian Daozu said that it was very difficult. Naturally, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. However, Su Fang still said with certainty, as long as there's a glimmer of hope, I will do my best to fight for it. Since I can change my fate, I can also change the fate of my family, friends, and subordinates. You don't have much time left. You need to improve your strength as soon as possible. Thank you for your reminder, Master. I will work harder." After ending his conversation with Shi Xian Daozu, Su Fang walked out of the Sanctum of Sages and stored it into his inner world. He flew out of the heaven realm. With a flick of his sleeve, the divine might of the Yin-Yang world enveloped the heaven realm. Rumble! Under Su Fang's divine might, the heaven realm, as well as the hundreds of millions of cultivators and Big Goblin, broke free from the shackles of heaven and earth, and were sucked into Su Fang's inner world through his palm. We are willing to follow Su Fangda. Outside the heaven realm, countless cultivators and Big Goblin from the demon world knelt down and kowtowed to Su Fang. Their voices were like a tsunami. Swoosh! Swoosh! Under Su Fang's divine might, countless cultivators and Big Goblin were sucked into Su Fang's inner world. In a flash, Su Fang appeared near the divine sun in the sky. Who else is willing to leave with me but can't make it to the Hunyuan heaven realm in time? Just kneel down and kowtow to the divine sun, and I will be able to sense it and take you away. Su Fang's voice was like the heavenly Tao, reverberating through the myriad worlds. I am willing. I want to live. I beg Su Fangda to take me and my family away. In the divine world, hundreds of millions of gods and Big Goblin knelt down and kowtowed to the divine sun, shouting loudly. Su Fang had refined the divine sun with the Yang refinement mystic art. Not only did it increase the power of the divine sun, but it also indirectly merged with the divine sun. With the divine sun's power, he could see the myriad worlds. The divine sun shot out rays of light, enveloping the gods and Big Goblin. In an instant, they traveled through the void and arrived in front of Su Fang. All of them were sucked into Su Fang's inner world. Some of the god worlds that were rich in essence were moved into Su Fang's inner world along with everything in the god world. Su Fang will be back. Su Fang took a deep look at them and sighed in his heart. Then, he disappeared into the sky. The imperial people and many cultivators from the ancient divine world who stayed in the Pan Tsang divine world were disappointed. Some regretted their decision. Chapter 2608. Su Fang left the Kai Tsang universe and appeared in the chaotic void beyond the heavens. As he looked at the boundless chaotic void, Su Fang was like an ant that had lost its way in the boundless ocean, and he didn't know where to go. Su Fang transmitted his thoughts to the ancestral Gragon in his body. Old dragon, where is the Jiuxuan god realm? The ancestral Gragon replied hesitantly, actually, this ancestor doesn't know either. Su Fang was shocked and stunned. Didn't you go to the Jiuxuan god realm with the Celestial Supreme? How can you not know where it is? The ancestral Gragon snorted. You brat, how would you know how vast the chaotic void beyond the heavens is? For example, the chaotic void is the boundless ocean, and the mystical realms in the Jiuxuan god realm are the tiny islands in the ocean. How can it be so easy to find the Jiuxuan god realm? How did the Celestial Supreme Pan Tsang go to Dongxian? The Celestial Supreme has a Xian Bao called the Dingxian Disk. He relied on the Dingxian Disk to find the coordinates of the mystical realms in the Jiuxuan God realm and travel through the chaotic void to Dongxian. Although this ancestor has been to Dongxian many times, without the Dingxian Disk, I would also be lost in the chaotic void. Su Fang finally understood. The Dingxian Disk was a compass in the chaos. Without the Dingxian Disk, it was like a ship sailing in the sea without a compass. Losing one's way was secondary, and one's life would be lost if the ship was not careful. Old Loach, why didn't you say so earlier? Su Fang brat, you never asked this ancestor. This ancestor thought that you already knew and had a way to go to the Jiuxuan God realm. It looked like this old dragon could not be counted on. The only one he could count on was the Shi Xian Daozu. Su Fang transmitted his thoughts to the depths of his body. Master, this disciple has something to ask. The Shi Xian Daozu's shadow appeared in Su Fang's mind and said slowly, even if you didn't ask, this master would have given you some pointers before going to the Jiuxuan God realm, so that you won't take the wrong path in the future. Su Fang was surprised and delighted. Thank you, master. The Shi Daozu asked, Master asks you, what is cultivation? Su Fang knew that the Shi Xian Daozu was pointing to his future cultivation, and became solemn. After thinking for a while, Su Fang replied, cultivation is to seek the truth. What is truth? Truth is the true heavenly Tao. Is Jiuxuan is heaven's Tao, is heaven is the Tao, the truth is the truth, you is Tao. There were countless cultivators in the Pan-Tsong universe, but only a few of them were able to comprehend the true essence. These cultivators eventually achieved transcendence. The Shi Xian Daozu spoke tirelessly. But the true heavenly Tao of Pan-Tsong is just little truth, false truth. It is Pan-Tsong's own understanding and interpretation of the heavenly Tao. It is not true truth. The true meaning of the great Tao is endless. How can cultivators like us easily grasp it? Even this ancestor has only touched a bit of the true essence of the great Tao. Pan-Tsong has only touched the edge, not even the surface. The Shi Xian Daozu's words caused Su Fang to realize what it meant to be a frog at the bottom of a well. The frog at the bottom of the well thought that the sky was only so big. Only after jumping out of the well did he know how narrow the world at the bottom of the well was, how laughable his previous thoughts were, and how insignificant cultivators were. Su Fang looked at the chaotic world and asked, Master, then what is true truth? This is what Master wants to talk to you about. The true meaning of the great Tao is in this chaos. Cultivators need to search and explore. In the chaos. All things are born from the chaos and end in the chaos. This chaos has no beginning and no end, it is endless. There is nothing, yet there is everything, and it exists eternally. Therefore, this chaos is the heavenly Tao, the entire world. The purpose of a cultivator was to seek the truth of the great Tao amidst the primordial chaos. You have transcended the Pan-Tsong universe, but you have just taken the first step on the path of seeking the truth. Su Fang did not fully understand, but he felt that it was amazing. That little dragon is right. This chaos is the ocean, and the Jiuxuan God realm is just an island in the ocean. It can't even be considered an island, it can only be considered sand, a speck of dust. The chaos is vast and endless, and there are countless lives. Humans are just an insignificant part of them. The Jiuxuan God realm is just an island for humans to survive on. In the chaos, humans are so insignificant and lowly. Su Fang was shocked when he heard the Shi Xian Daozu's introduction. Does the truth make you feel very disappointed? This is the truth. You live in the Pan-Tsong universe and have been blinded, living your life muddle-headedly. This is not a bad thing. I would rather die on the path of seeking the true meaning of the great Tao than live comfortably like a pig or a dog, but live a muddle-headed life. Su Fang's eyes flashed with a hale and hearty light, revealing determination and determination. At the same time, He was full of yearning for the vast chaos void and the Jiuquan God realm. His blood began to boil. Shi Xian Daozu nodded. Su Fang, you are very good. It is because of this Tao heart that you can transcend the Pan Song universe. The great Tao is difficult and destiny is difficult to grasp. Only with an unbroken Tao heart can you go further on the path of seeking the truth. There was a moment of silence. QL11 Shi Xian Daozu said slowly, back then, in the internal space of the Pan Song Sun God, I promised you that I would tell you about the Jiuquan Limitless Sutra. Before going to the Jiuquan God realm, I will tell you the truth, lest you have doubts about me and leave a knot in your heart. Su Fang's heart shook. He was finally going to know the truth about the Jiuquan Limitless Sutra. The Jiuquan Limitless Sutra once caused a world-shaking wave in the Jiuquan God realm. Countless eras ago, a peerless genius rose in the Jiuquan God realm against the heavens. This genius descended. This person was originally a genius without any background. Because he offended an ancient force of Shi Xian, he was chased by his enemies and fled to the depths of chaos outside the Jiuquan. So there really was someone who descended, and he came from Shi Xian. Then where did the evil god that was going to devour Pan Song come from? At that time, the evil god was just an ant-like person, and naturally could not attract my attention. Who knew that the evil god had some kind of fortuitous encounter in the chaos, or perhaps he had comprehended some kind of heavenly secret. After he returned, he turned the Western Xian God realm upside down. In a short period of time, the evil god rose against the heavens. Not only did he kill his old enemies, he also wantonly plundered the sects and divine forces of Shi Xian, and used them to rapidly grow stronger. Later on, the commotion became greater and greater, and finally alarmed me. So I sent out the most outstanding disciple of my sect to kill the evil god. The evil god died just like that? The truth was obviously not so simple. I originally thought that the storm would pass just like that. Who knew that after my disciple killed the evil god, he obtained the Jiuquan infinite scripture from the evil god's body? He thought he had obtained an opportunity, and had an avatar secretly cultivate the Jiuquan infinite scripture behind my back. In the end, my disciple's avatar cultivated the world and the universe, and gave birth to an evil self from his consciousness. It was the evil god that descended. My disciple was not just an avatar, even his true body was dominated by the consciousness of the evil god. Then he started to expand his influence in Shi Xian, and spread to other divine realms, giving birth to many evil gods. If I had not alarmed him in the end, all of Shi Xian would have been dominated by the evil god, and even all of the Jiuquan divine realms would not be peaceful. I personally acted and suppressed that disciple, and deduced the Jiuquan infinite scripture. Only then did I understand that the evil god was not an independent existence, nor was it as simple as a cultivator being evil. It was a race. If one cultivated the Jiuquan infinite scripture, they would be born from their own consciousness. But even with my power, I could not find a way to resolve it. In the end, I could only seal it and watch as that disciple died. In the end, the Jiuquan divine realms worked together to suppress the evil god. But the evil god was not completely eradicated. There would occasionally be evil gods that would descend in the Jiuquan divine realms, and some evil gods would escape into the chaos. It was impossible to kill them all. My final guess was that it should be an evil race that hated us humans, and purposely created the Jiuquan infinite scripture to harm us humans. If the evil god was not eliminated, it would be a great threat to the Jiuquan divine realms. That Pan Song should have obtained the Jiuquan infinite scripture from the desolate universe left behind by an expert who had cultivated the Jiuquan infinite scripture. He cultivated the Jiuquan infinite scripture into a universe of his own. Su Fang was enlightened. No wonder he had met Shi Xian Daozu when he was wandering the universe. Shi Xian had said that they were connected by fate. So this was the reason. I did not expect Pan Tsang to find a solution to the problem that even I could not resolve from the Jiuxuan infinite scripture. He transformed the infinite into Taiji and created the 9 Yang 9 transformations and 9 E 9 transformations. Therefore, I wanted to find a way to eradicate the evil god from you. Also, I want to know how high you can reach by cultivating the 9 Yang 9 transformations. You should now understand why I did not stop Pan Tsang when he was about to take over your body. That is because no matter if it is you or Pan Tsang, they are all the same to me. You don't have to blame your master. Su Fang hurriedly responded, How would I dare? In Shi Xian Daozu's eyes, Su Fang and Sky Sovereign Pan Tsang were test subject. It did not matter who succeeded. Shi Xian Daozu continued, When you arrive at the Jiuxuan God realm, you will have to rely on yourself for everything. You will not go far with the help of others in cultivation. If you succeed, you will be a powerhouse of Shi Xian in the future. If you fail, you will naturally die. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. This is how cultivation works. Yes. Next, I will use my divine power to send you directly to the outskirts of Dongxian. Dongxian? Su Fang was stunned, thinking that Shi Xian Daozu would bring him there. However, Su Fang quickly understood Shi Xian Daozu's intention. If he came to Shi Xian, Su Fang would have to rely on him everywhere. How could he become a powerhouse? Remember, from now on, I will only help you 3 times. After the 3 chances are used, my consciousness will return to Shi Xian. In addition, I have set some cultivation goals and corresponding rewards for you. As long as you complete the goals I set for you within the time I set, you will receive the corresponding rewards to help you improve your ability rapidly. Thank you, Master. Chapter 2609. For the sake of his grandfather and goddess Luo, Su Fang had planned to go to Dongxian. His grandfather's soul had been brought to Dongxian by Dongxian Rong. Su Fang wanted to save his grandfather's soul at all cost. There was also goddess Luo. In order for the pregnant goddess Luo to be reborn soon, she had to be nourished by spiritual items. The grudge with Dongxuan's Feng clan had to be resolved as well. Shi Xian's Daozu asking Su Fang to go to Dongxian was exactly what Su Fang wanted. Whoosh! A shadow appeared in front of Su Fang, turning into Shi Xian's Daozu. He raised his right hand and pointed at the chaotic void. Buzz, buzz, buzz! The cold, dead, and chaotic void suddenly rolled and quickly condensed into a green stone door. The stone door seemed to be made of material. Multicolored light flickered within the door, changing into all sorts of bizarre scenes. A power that could distort space surged within. Go. Master has formed a mystical door that leads to Dongxian for you. Through this mystical door, you can reach the periphery of Dongxian. You have to walk the rest of the way yourself. As Shi Xian's Daozu nodded, he turned into a golden divine sigil and disappeared into Su Fang's body. Dongxian Divine Realm will be the first starting point for me, Su Fang, to rise in the Jiuxuan Divine Realm. Su Fang's blood began to boil. His heart was filled with anticipation as he stepped into the mystical door. He felt like he had stepped on air. His body had lost its center of gravity and control. The world spun and he lost consciousness. After some time and some distance, Su Fang suddenly felt his body gain weight. At the same time, he regained control of his body. A huge spatial ripple hit Su Fang, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. He staggered and quickly used the power of yin and yang to stabilize himself. He looked over. He was still in a chaotic void. However, the surrounding air was no longer cold and silent. It was a chaotic air that could freeze a person to death. Instead, it contained a weak power of the world. In the primal chaos, Su Fang could only see about 100 miles. More than 30 miles to the right, there was a piece of gloomy material floating in the air. Have we arrived at the eastern profound divine domain? Su Fang's spirits were suddenly lifted. Ancestral Graygon's voice rang out from Su Fang's inner world. Su Fang brat, Don't celebrate too early. We're still very far away from the true Eastern Profound Divine Domain. This is merely the outer region of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain. Su Fang said, since we're at the outskirts of the Eastern Profound Divine Realm, we shouldn't be too far from it. Indeed, it's not far. However, the further we go, the more dangerous it is. In the profound world of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain, there are rules set by the various forces, sects, and cultivation god clans. As long as you don't deliberately break the rules, you will generally be fine. However, the outer region is not only filled with naturally formed danger zones in the primal chaos, there are also all kinds of monsters. There are also cultivators who have offended various major forces and are being hunted down. There are no rules. With your strength, your chances of survival, if you want to pass through the outer region and enter the profound world of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain, are not very high. Let's find a place to rest first and recover first. Su Fang flew towards the floating material. Su Fang felt like he had become a weakling again. Although he could fly in the primal chaos, his speed was not fast. He was equivalent to a divine emperor in the Pongtsong universe. In addition, the shackles in the primal chaos were extremely shocking, causing Su Fang's energy consumption to be astonishing. Fortunately, there was the world fragment from beyond the heavens that allowed Su Fang to absorb the weak power of the world from the cold, dead air of the primal chaos. The world fragment will be my greatest reliance to establish myself in Dongxian. There's also the true Yang vanquishing evil sword, the 9 Yang 9 transformations, the heavens divination mystic art, the art of shrinking life, and the extreme Tao mystic art. Su Fang had so many cultivation methods, abilities, and treasures, so he was naturally full of confidence. Whoosh! Soon, he came to a floating material. The dark material only had an area of about 1,000 feet, exuding desolation and coldness. It was bare, and no breath of life could be sensed. Su Fang sat cross-legged on the material, absorbing the weak power of the world through the world fragment. Pure essence of the world's origin force constantly gushed out from the world fragment, healing Su Fang's exhaustion and injuries. By the time Su Fang had fully recovered, he counted with his fingers and found that 30 years had passed. Su Fang then realized that in the primal chaos, the flow of time was nearly 10 times slower than in the Pongtsong universe. In addition, the time in the primal chaos, Su Fang's great Tao of time, had completely lost its power. This discovery made Su Fang very depressed. Then, Su Fang tried to perform all kinds of abilities and arcane artifacts. Not only the great Tao of time, but all the abilities and arcane artifacts in the Pongtsong universe had lost their effects. Except for the 9 changes of 9 suns, as well as the heavenly secret life shrinking technique, the heavenly divination arcane solution, and the extreme Tao black yang technique, their power was greatly limited. It was worlds apart from the power displayed in the Pongtsong universe. Swoosh! Swoosh! More than 10 figures flew out of the primal chaos and went straight to the material where Su Fang was. The material was bare and had nowhere to hide. These people immediately discovered Su Fang. QL11 These people's appearances were very strange. Their heads were strangely big, and there was an additional vertical eye between their eyebrows. Everything else was normal. Su Fang sensed their auras and found that their auras were also very strange. They didn't have the origin aura of the Eastern Xian divine realm like Dongxianjing, but were mixed with low-level life aura. Su Fang, kid, be careful. These cultivators are like you. They are obviously cultivators who have transcended from the universe of the strong. The ancestral Gragon reminded in Su Fang's inner world. Transcended cultivators from other universes? Su Fang was stunned. He couldn't help but be curious about these cultivators. The leader of the three-eyed freaks said, "Kid, are you a false god too?" False god? When gods communicated with each other, even if they came from different universes, even if they couldn't understand each other's language, their primordial spirit consciousness could still sense the other party's meaning. However, this was the first time Su Fang had heard of the false gods mentioned by the three-eyed freak. The three-eyed freak said, "Kid, since we are all false gods from low-level universes, why don't you join us? We can take care of each other in Dongxian." The ancestral Graygon quickly reminded, "Don't agree to them. These are transcended cultivators from other low-level universes. Which one of them isn't a powerful character? Be careful that they don't eat you alive." What hadn't Su Fang seen before? He tactfully declined, "Sorry, I'm waiting for a few friends from Dongxian. They will take me directly to the Eastern Xian Divine Realm." Friends from the Eastern Xian Divine Realm? The three-eyed freak's gaze flickered. He was obviously wary of the people from the Eastern Xian Divine Realm. The three-eyed freaks talked among themselves. Most of them didn't believe Su Fang's words. Some of them looked at Su Fang with murderous gazes. However, these three-eyed freaks from low-level universes were still unwilling to take the risk. In the end, they left in embarrassment. The ancestral Graygon said, "Kid, you are cunning indeed. You scared these three-eyed freaks away with just a few words." Su Fang asked, "Old dragon, what is a false god?" "A deity like you who has just transcended from the universe of the strong. Because you cultivate the heavenly Tao of the strong, you haven't reached the level of a true deity in the Jiuquan divine realm. Therefore, you are called a false god. A transcended cultivator is the name given by the Pan Tsong universe to those supreme masters who have transcended heaven and earth. In fact, it's nothing in the Jiuquan divine realm." False god? Su Fang smiled bitterly. It felt like a city dweller's contemptuous name for a country bumpkin. Then, he asked, "Old dragon, what is the difference between the deities of the Jiuquan divine realm and the deities of the Pan Tsong universe?" "The difference is huge. In the Jiuquan divine realm, most of the deities are still mortals. A false god like you is the peak that mortals in the Jiuquan divine realm can reach. The first realm after transcending mortality is called the True Tao realm." True Tao realm? Only after entering this realm can one be considered to have stepped into the real door of cultivation. Therefore, it is called True Tao. Ancestral Graygon continued, "A cultivator of the True Tao realm can barely stand in the Jiuquan divine realm. They are no longer ants like mortals. Above the True Tao realm is the Tao Lord. Above the Tao Lord is the Tao Lord. These three realms have just touched upon the true essence of cultivation. Above these realms there are higher realms. However, I don't know about them. In the past, when the Heavenly Lord was at his peak, he was only a Tao Lord." Su Fang finally understood how long the road of cultivation was. Even the Heavenly Lord Pan Tsong had only touched the edge of the true Tao. He was just a false god who had not even entered the door of cultivation. Su Fang asked curiously, "Old dragon, how high is your strength in the Jiuquan divine realm?" Ancestral Graygon said embarrassedly, "I was enslaved by the Heavenly Lord like a mount. My strength is not worth mentioning. I am only at the peak of the true Tao realm. It is difficult for me to become a Tao Lord expert." Su Fang said, "Old dragon, follow me, Su Fang. Sooner or later, you will become a Tao Lord expert or even higher." "I hope so." While they were talking, Su Fang's divine light suddenly changed. He looked at the depths of the floating matter. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Hundreds of figures were flying toward the chaotic void from the sky above the matter. The strange three-eyed people were also among these cultivators. Behind them, there were more than 10 humanoid monsters that were chasing after them. These monsters looked similar to ordinary people. However, they were emitting a cold aura with a faint aura of death. Their faces were pale and their eyes were dead. They were like a group of corpses. Strangely, these monsters had life aura. Obviously, they were not corpses. Su Fang, be careful. You better use your supreme divine ability to conceal your aura. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome. These monsters are controlled by the experts in the chaos. They look similar to humans, but they are actually evil cultivators who put babies in the corpses of experts to absorb the corpse aura. They are powerful monsters called nether puppets. Ancestral Gragon reminded Su Fangda. Chapter 26:10. He didn't expect that the three-eyed man would lead a nether skull to Su Fang. You're courting death. Su Fang's heart was filled with a fierce aura. The three-eyed man flew over Su Fang, causing the nether skull to chase after him. Apparently, the nether skull had sensed Su Fang's majestic life energy. It was attracted to Su Fang, giving up on the three-eyed man. The three-eyed man laughed complacently and was about to escape into the chaotic void. Who knew? Su Fang released a flow of yin and yang world power and wrapped around the three-eyed man. After Su Fang had fused with the fragment of the outer space, his yin and yang world power had transformed. Although it hadn't completely transformed into the mysterious world power, it had far surpassed any power from the low-level universe. The three-eyed man was caught off guard. He was shackled by Su Fang's yin and yang world power and was swept toward the nether skull. The nether skull stretched out his right hand, which turned into a ghost claw and stabbed into the three-eyed man's chest like cutting tofu. Hiss! The three-eyed man's blood, chi, and energy were quickly swallowed by the nether skull. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a withered human skin. A peerless expert from a low-level universe was swallowed so easily. The Jiuquan God domain is indeed full of dangers. Su Fang's body was filled with coldness as he flew toward the chaotic void. He didn't know that the nether skull was even faster. Su Fang had only run for 300 miles in the chaotic void before the nether skull caught up with him. You really think that I, Su Fang, am afraid of you? Su Fang's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He turned around and faced the nether skull. He waved his hand and a golden light shot out from his palm, which turned into Ancestral Gragon's figure. Boom! Boom! Ancestral Gragon used his powerful body to fight the nether skull. He was worthy of being called Ancestral Gragon. Even in the chaotic void, he wasn't at a disadvantage when fighting the nether skull in his human form. Instead, he suppressed the nether skull. However, Ming Hao's body seemed to be immortal. The wounds Ancestral Dragon had inflicted on him were healed in just a blink of an eye. Even when Ancestral Dragon's dragon claw crushed Ming Hao's head, it didn't affect him much. Soon, he grew a new head. Moreover, Ming Hao often breathed corpse gas and corpse flames, which had troubled Ancestral Dragon a lot. Ancestral Dragon was enraged. He wanted to transform into his true form to kill Ming Hao. Old dragon, once you transform into your true form, you'll attract more nether puppets and even other experts and monsters. You stall this nether skull first. I will use the true yang evil slaying sword to kill it. Su Fang secretly transmitted his voice to Ancestral Gragon. You should also be careful of Xian Bao's aura. It will attract the attention of experts, Ancestral Gragon replied. Ancestral Dragon continued to entangle Ming Hao. Seizing this opportunity, Su Fang activated the true yang evil slayer sword, causing a fierce and blazing sword chi to sweep through the chaotic void and slash the nether puppet into two. The sword chi tore Ming Hao's corpse into pieces, and the pure yang energy contained in it quickly incinerated Ming Hao's corpse gas, making it difficult for it to recover. In the end, this extremely troublesome nether puppet was incinerated by the sword chi and couldn't be more dead. Su Fang quickly put away the true yang evil slayer sword and absorbed Ancestral Dragon into his inner world. Then, he quickly fled into the depths of the chaotic void. Not long after he left, dozens of cultivators sensed the aura of the true yang evil slayer sword and rode their flying swords to the place where Su Fang killed Ming Hao. It's Xian Bao's aura indeed. One of them was a dignified middle-aged man with a square face. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes, exuding a fierce murderous aura. Obviously, he was an expert. After sensing the surroundings, the dignified middle-aged man raised his thick eyebrows, and the eyes under his eyebrows flashed with a bright light. The middle-aged man said in surprise. Xian Bao who can kill Ming Hao is obviously not an ordinary Xian Bao. Could it be that an expert has come to the dark wasteland? An expert next to him said, We came to the dark wasteland this time to capture slaves for the Chamber of Commerce. It's better not to complicate matters. The dignified middle-aged man led the dozens of experts away in embarrassment. Su Fang had stayed in the chaotic void for more than 10 years. He estimated that the danger should have passed, so he flew towards the floating objects. He carefully flew past the floating object. Releasing his sensing power, Su Fang sensed some nothingness auras on the objects. Some came from humans, some from unknown races, and some from powerful monsters. From time to time, roars could be heard coming from the material, causing the chaotic void to tremble. QL11 Su Fang had no choice but to use the life-shrinking technique to conceal his aura. Coupled with the floating dust and clouds in the air, he was lucky not to be discovered. However, Su Fang soon encountered a new danger. When he passed by a huge object that was about 100 li in size, he didn't see anything strange in the periphery. However, when he entered the space above the object, he felt an incomparably powerful suction force that made it difficult for him to control his body. He fell down like a meteor and smashed into a square black rock. Su Fang felt that all the bones in his body were broken, and many of his meridians were broken. If he did not have a perfect physical body and various extraordinary physiques, he would have been smashed into meat paste. A supreme expert who could command the wind and the clouds in the Pansong universe, a peerless existence who could shake heaven and earth with a thought, almost fell to his death in the periphery of the eastern profound divine domain. If the cultivators and the big goblin in the world in his body knew about this, Su Fang would be laughed to death. What terrified Su Fang even more was yet to come. His blood dripped on the black rock and seeped into it. Even the blood qi in his body flowed into the rock. After sensing it, Su Fang was shocked to find that the rock under him was not a rock, but a stone spirit monster. This monster was somewhat similar to a wooling goblin, but it had not yet taken human form and could not move. However, it could release an astonishing gravity force, sucking life forms from the air to the ground and then devouring their blood qi. Little stone spirit monster, you want to devour Su Fang? How can I let you do as you wish? Su Fang was shocked and angry, but his body was shackled by the stone spirit and could not move, so he could not break free. However, this did not mean that Su Fang had lost his ability. The 9 yang divine fire gushed out of the yang meridian, and the treasure refining pool kept spewing out flames, fusing with the 9 yang divine fire and quickly seeping into the rock, enveloping it from the inside out and burning it fiercely. Ka. Under the crazy burning of the flames, the rocks were burned red and cracks appeared on the surface of the rock. Ever since Su Fang cultivated the extreme Tao Black Sun tactics, his 9 yang divine fire had become even more advanced. In the Jiuxuan God realm, it was not something that ordinary flames could compare to. In addition, the treasure refining pool was constantly refined by Su Fang, so the power of the flames was also extremely shocking. The power of the flames released by the fusion of the 2 types of flames could even burn stone to ashes. A thought came from inside the rock, Sir, please spare my life. This little one has devoured many cultivators and is willing to offer their treasures. Please spare this little one this time. Su Fang shouted domineeringly, Submit to me and I will spare your life. Seeing that the stone spirit was about to be melted, Su Fang had no choice but to plant a seal in the depths of his primordial spirit. Su Fang withdrew the flames and broke free from the stone spirit's gravitational shackles. Ancestral Gragon spoke in his inner world, Kid, your luck is really good. A stone spirit like this that was born from the essence of the mysterious world is very rare in the Jiuxuan God realm. Don't look at how weak this stone spirit is now. Once it grows up, it will definitely be a powerful expert, and it has the innate ability of the earth element. Cut the crap. Give me the dragon blood. You want this ancestor to bleed again. Ancestral Gragon wanted to cry but had no tears. In Su Fang's inner world, he looked up to the sky and sighed about his miserable fate. After devouring more than a dozen drops of dragon blood, Su Fang's injuries were mostly healed. The blood in his body surged, and his shattered bones and meridians were quickly restored to normal. He kept the stone spirit in his inner world. He would slowly train it when he had the time. After the stone spirit was removed, a large pit was left on the ground. There were many broken bones in it. Obviously, they belonged to cultivators whose life essence was devoured by the stone spirit. There were also some bones that were difficult to identify. Among the broken bones, Su Fang found more than a dozen storage rings. Unfortunately, only 3 storage rings were intact. The rest were all broken. They should have been destroyed by the terrifying gravitational force released by the stone spirit. Even the items inside were all broken. In the remaining 3 storage rings, there were some elixirs, crystals, and other resources. There were also a few pieces of ordinary xianbao. They were far from the treasures mentioned by the stone spirit. However, at least there were some gains. Su Fang was very happy. After carefully inspecting the space inside the 3 storage rings, he was about to put them all away. Suddenly a huge shadow shrouded the sky. At the same time, a terrifying aura suddenly descended and shrouded Su Fang. Just as Su Fang was about to resist, a black rope fell from the sky and firmly shackled him. Then, with a whoosh, he was pulled up and flew into the sky. It turned out that a huge black treasure ship was floating in the sky. It was covered with divine patterns. It was actually an extraordinary xianbao. There were more than a dozen experts on the ship. The leader was the dignified middle-aged man who was attracted by the aura of the true Yang evil-slaying sword. One of the experts activated a black rope-like xianbao and dragged Su Fang from the material to the treasure ship. Su Fang was tied up like a big dumpling and thrown directly on the deck. Another false god from a low-level universe. This is a good harvest. The dignified middle-aged man glanced at Su Fang and nodded with satisfaction. It was as if he was looking at a prey that he had caught. One of the experts said with a smile, "These false gods are extraordinary. There won't be any trouble if we capture them as slaves. If we sell them to the Chamber of Commerce, we'll definitely sell them for a good price." Su Fang was being judged like a monkey by a group of experts. His heart was burning with rage and killing intent. Ancestral Gragon hurriedly transmitted his thoughts to Su Fang. These people are mercenaries who work for the Chamber of Commerce. The expert in the lead is a lower-level Tao Lord. Even if we join forces, it will be difficult to escape. Why don't we let these mercenaries tie us up first and find a way to escape when we reach the Eastern Profound Divine Realm? Mercenaries from the Jiuxuan Divine Realm dare to capture people so wantonly. If this was the mystic world, they naturally wouldn't dare to do so. However, this is the periphery of Dongxian, and you are a false god with no background. Capturing you as a slave is perfectly normal. Ancestral Gragon's answer made Su Fang once again experience the sorrow of the weak. Chapter 26:11. Xu Wanjin was furious within Su Fang's inner world. She transmitted her voice to Su Fang. "Su Fang, let me out quickly. We can work together to activate the origin mirror. We might be able to kill that Tao Lord Master. It's not the last moment. Just bear with it for now." Su Fang quickly stopped Xu Wanjin. Xu Wanjin was at the critical moment of merging with the origin mirror. If she allowed the origin mirror to merge, all her previous efforts would go to waste. Unless it was a matter of life and death, Su Fang would never do that. Fortunately, the dignified middle-aged man did not see anything unusual about Su Fang after a few glances. He thought of Su Fang as an ordinary false god who had just come to the Eastern Xian divine domain from a low-level universe. He did not even notice the true Yang evil vanquishing sword and origin mirror hidden in Su Fang's inner world. Logically speaking, the dignified middle-aged man was a Tao Lord Master. It should not have been difficult for him to see through Su Fang's background. However, this was the result. Su Fang was not surprised. At this moment, Shi Xian Daozu's voice sounded in his mind. Your master has cast a spell to deceive the Dao Palace of Heaven and Earth for you. In Dongxian, other than that old man Dongxian Daozu, no one can see through your background. Outsiders look no different from other cultivators. You can rest assured in the future. Su Fang was finally relieved. He cultivated the universe within his body. With his current cultivation base, it was easy for experts to discover his extraordinariness. It might bring him a lot of trouble in the future. With Shi Xian Daozu's help, Su Fang was naturally relieved. Deceiving the Dao Palace of Heaven and Earth would save him a lot of trouble in the future. The mercenary leader reached out and grabbed the 3 storage rings in Su Fang's hand. After sensing them, he casually rewarded them to his subordinate. You stole Su Fang's treasures. I'll make you pay back 100 times in the future. Su Fang gritted his teeth when the treasures he had just obtained were taken away. However, all he could do now was endure. Following which, the mercenary leader condensed a ray of divine light that landed on Su Fang's face. The Xian Guang wriggled and turned into an ugly mark. In the eastern profound divine realm, only slaves would have such a mark on their faces. Su Fang felt that the slave imprint was not only on his face, but also on his primordial spirit. Not only was it difficult to erase, but it was also under the control of the dignified middle-aged man. With just a thought, Su Fang's primordial spirit could be erased. You want to shackle my Su Fang with a mere slave seal? Su Fang sneered in his heart. Since the middle-aged mercenary had shackled him, he obviously wouldn't do anything to harm him, so he gave up on the idea of risking his life. The black rope Xian Bao on Su Fang's body was put away, and then he was escorted to the inner cabin of the treasure ship by a mercenary expert. In the stinky cabin, Su Fang saw over 100 slaves captured by the mercenaries. There were false gods from low-level universes like Su Fang, and also some ferocious-looking bandit. Su Fang also saw a few familiar faces. They were the 3-eyed freaks from the low-level universes. The leader of the 3-eyed freaks was also captured. Like the others, he had a slave imprint on his face. It seemed that he was also shackled as a slave. Seeing Su Fang, the 3-eyed freaks were surprised at first, but then they all showed expressions of schadenfreude. The leader glanced at Su Fang, and his eyes suddenly became fierce. The eye between his eyebrows suddenly opened and shot out a ray of red light that wrapped around Su Fang's body. Soon after, the 3-eyed leader's eyes revealed killing intent, and he strode towards Su Fang like a fiend. "Kid, you killed my clansman?" the 3-eyed freak said with killing intent. "So what if I did?" Su Fang said indifferently. The 3-eyed freak's monstrous eye had some special ability. It could actually see that Su Fang had killed a 3-eyed freak. However, this person was also a false god. How could Su Fang be afraid of him? The 3-eyed freak gnashed his teeth and said, "Kid, just you wait. You killed my clansman. I'll make you wish you were dead." Su Fang said disdainfully, "When the time comes, the one who will die will be you. I'll tear you apart right now." The 3-eyed freak roared like a ferocious beast and was about to attack Su Fang. But a red whip came from the sky and whipped the 3-eyed freak away. He smashed into the wall of the cabin and let out a miserable scream. His skin and flesh were lacerated. A mercenary coldly shouted at the door, "Behave yourselves. If you dare to cause trouble, I'll beat you to death." The slaves in the cabin immediately kept quiet out of fear. Su Fang went to a corner of the cabin and sat down cross-legged, waiting for an opportunity to escape. The mercenaries steered the ship and searched for treasures on the floating objects. When they encountered lone cultivators, they would attack and suppress them. About 100 years later, the cabin of the ship was filled with slaves captured by the mercenaries. There were about 500 of them. Su Fang couldn't find an opportunity to escape. He couldn't help but feel anxious. However, Su Fang hadn't been idle during the past 100 years. He had been secretly absorbing world energy to cultivate, fusing it with the true yang evil-slaying sword, and completely subduing the stone essence. The ancestral Gragon was right. The stone essence was truly extraordinary. It could release astonishing gravity and form a gravity domain. When used at full strength, it could even severely injure an ordinary Tao Lord. However, the stone essence was still in its infancy and couldn't take human form. Thus, it couldn't move and couldn't maintain the gravity domain for long. For Su Fang, having a monster like the stone essence as a subordinate was perfect. As long as it was carefully nurtured, it would be a great help to Su Fang in the future. On this day, a burst of cheers came from outside the cabin. Su Fang pricked up his ears to listen. It turned out that the mercenaries had captured an extremely rare divine beast. It wasn't an ordinary divine beast, but a flame beast with dual attributes of lightning and fire. It was considered an extremely rare and powerful divine beast in the mystic world of Eastern Xian. However, this was an infant beast that hadn't yet reached adulthood. It was precisely because of this that the mercenaries had captured it. Otherwise, with the strength of an adult flame beast, a single thunderbolt could kill a Tao Lord. It wasn't something the mercenaries could have captured. In order to capture this flame beast, the mercenaries had lost 3 and injured 5. It could be said that they had suffered heavy losses. However, the value of this infant flame beast was not even a tenth of the value of all the slaves on the ship. These mercenaries had made a windfall. The loss of manpower was nothing. After shackling the flame beast, the mercenaries didn't continue to stay in the dark wilderness. They immediately urged the ship to fly deeper into the wilderness. After flying for about 300 years, the ship arrived at a huge material continent. Although this place wasn't part of the Eastern Xian divine domain, it wasn't far from Dongxian. This material continent could be considered a small mystic world. It was occupied by a Tao Lord, and the base of these mercenaries was also in this mystic world. Su Fang and the other slaves captured by the mercenaries were sent to a mine as mining slaves. They mined every day and earned commissions for the mercenaries. When they found a suitable seller, they would be sold as slaves. The mine was heavily guarded, and Su Fang couldn't find a chance to escape in a short time. The leader of the three-eyed eccentric, because he had shown the strongest strength and was obedient to the mercenaries, was arranged to be the leader of the slaves. He was in charge of these slaves. Although the three-eyed eccentric hadn't done anything to Su Fang for the time being, Su Fang could see the fierce killing intent in their eyes. On this day, the leader of the three-eyed eccentric arranged for Su Fang and 5 other three-eyed eccentric to dig in the depths of the mine. Su Fang knew that these three-eyed eccentric were going to attack him. In this mine, there were slaves dying every day. It was easy for these three-eyed eccentric to kill Su Fang in the mine. When they came to an abandoned mine in the depths of the mine, Su Fang was blocked by the 5 three-eyed eccentric. The 5 three-eyed eccentric looked at Su Fang with a sinister grin. "Kid, weren't you very arrogant? Today, I'll let you know the consequences of offending my three-eyed god tribe. I'll pull out your tendons and skin you alive." Su Fang glanced at the mine and nodded. "This place is not bad. It's very suitable for killing people to keep their mouths shut. But the people who will die will be you." The three-eyed eccentric laughed at the same time. Su Fang suddenly waved his hand and rolled out a large black rock, dropping it into the mine. Boom! When the large rock appeared, it suddenly exploded with a majestic gravity. QL11 The gravity was truly astonishing. Caught off guard, the 5 three-eyed eccentric were crushed to the ground. Their divine bodies ruptured and blood sprayed out. One of the weaker three-eyed eccentric's body was crushed into meat paste by the gravity. His bones shattered, leaving behind only a sheet of human skin on the ground. The other 2 three-eyed eccentric unleashed their inner worlds to form a defensive barrier, attempting to dispel the terrifying gravity of the stone essence. The transcendents from low-level universes all cultivated their inner world. In low-level universes, Their inner worlds could instantly transform into a true world. However, in the primordial chaos and mystic worlds, they were unable to withstand the pressure of the shackles. The only way was to constantly absorb mystic world energy and strengthen their inner world. In addition, the gravity of the stone essence was so astonishing that even ordinary Dowlords would find it hard to withstand it. What use was there for the three-eyed eccentric to unleash their inner worlds? Whoosh, whoosh. The two three-eyed eccentrics' inner worlds had just formed outside their bodies. Before they could stabilize, they burst like soap bubbles and their bodies collapsed. Within the stone essence's gravity domain, Su Fong was unaffected. The remaining two three-eyed eccentric were also heavily injured and were easily dealt with by him. Su Fong absorbed the corpses of the three-eyed eccentric into his inner world. He didn't even spare the corpses that had been reduced to meat paste. Although these three-eyed eccentric were only at the false god level, to Su Fong's inner world, Luo, Qingyu, and the others, they were supreme cultivation materials. Su Fong planned to help them reach the transcendence level as soon as possible. The three-eyed eccentric storage rings contained large amounts of resources, but they were all from low-level universes. Su Fong had no use for them at all. He gave them all to his family, friends, and subordinates in his inner world to cultivate. After dealing with the 5 three-eyed eccentric, Su Fong couldn't stay here any longer. When it was time to wrap up, Su Fong walked out of the mine and planned to find a way to escape. "You killed my clansmen." When the three-eyed eccentric leader saw Su Fong appear alone, the eye between his eyebrows shot out red light and swept over Su Fong. He was surprised and shocked, and then his killing intent soared. "All slaves, come here." Chapter 26:12. "Boy, in a while, I'll skin you alive, drink your blood, and eat your flesh." The three-eyed man gnashed his teeth in hatred towards Su Fong, but he had no choice but to endure. Su Fong sneered and turned his attention to the mercenary leader. For some unknown reason, he suddenly gathered all the slaves. The mercenary leader loudly said, "Your fortune has arrived. Now you need a slave to take care of the flame beast. Although it's a little dangerous, you don't have to stay in the mine anymore." It turned out that the mercenary leader had come to pick a slave to take care of the flame beast. Who wouldn't want such a good thing? The slaves were eager to give it a try. Unexpectedly, the mercenary leader continued, "I'll say the ugly words first, the flame beast isn't easy to take care of. If you don't handle it well, you'll lose your life. A few days ago, one of my brothers was burned alive by the flame beast. And I'm counting on this flame beast to sell for a good price. If you don't take care of this treasure, I'll directly throw you to the flame beast as food." As if being splashed with ice water, all the slaves trembled and didn't dare to make a sound. The three-eyed man suddenly said, "Sir, this one is a three-eyed god and has the innate ability to control beasts. This one can take care of the flame beast comfortably and let Sir sell it for a good price." The mercenary leader's eyes suddenly lit up. "Then I'll let you try." The three-eyed man suddenly said, "This one has a request, I hope Sir can fulfill it." The mercenary leader's thick eyebrows wrinkled. "What's the matter?" The three-eyed man pointed at Su Fong and angrily said, "This damn slave killed 5 of my clansmen. Sir, please uphold justice for this one. These slaves are being trained in the mine and will be sold to the Chamber of Commerce in the future. You, a lowly slave, actually killed other slaves and made me suffer a loss?" The mercenary leader was furious and a divine aura shrouded Su Fong, about to suppress Su Fong on the spot. The three-eyed man's eyes revealed a complacent look. Su Fongda shouted, "I'm the only one who can take care of it. If you kill me, you won't be able to find anyone who can take care of it." The mercenary leader raised his eyebrows and restrained his aura. He asked, "What ability do you have to take care of the flame beast?" The three-eyed man said, "Sir, don't listen to this man's nonsense. He's obviously trying to escape your punishment. He's talking nonsense." "Shut up!" The mercenary leader angrily roared, and his aura pressed down on the three-eyed man, causing him to spit out blood. Su Fong flipped his right hand, and the 9 suns divine fire appeared in his palm. Immediately it began to burn. The mercenary leader looked surprised. "Hey, you actually have such an extraordinary flame. It's not from a low-level universe, but an extraordinary flame from the Jiuxuan domain of the gods. It seems that your luck is not shallow, but what does this have to do with taking care of the flame beast? If you can't explain it, you still won't be able to escape death." Su Fong said, "The flame beast is a thunder and fire divine beast. Its temperament must be extremely violent. What's the use of a low-level universe's beast taming technique? I control an extraordinary flame, so the flame beast naturally feels close to me. Moreover, I can feed the flame beast with my flame, so only I can take care of the flame beast." The mercenary leader nodded and said, "Good, then I'll let you try." The 3-eyed man suddenly became anxious. "Sir, this little one is willing to try. If I fail and lose my life, this little one has nothing to say." The mercenary leader waved his hand and rolled out a divine pressure. Su Fong and the 3-eyed man were swept away, and they left the mine. They came to a valley in the sealed world. There was a cave in the valley that was guarded by 3 mercenaries. From time to time, there would be scorching air currents and the rumbling of thunder, causing the cave to tremble. The mercenary leader asked, "Is the flame beast still restless?" One of the mercenaries said with a wry smile, "If we hadn't shackled the flame beast's yuan spirit, we wouldn't have been able to control it. Now, no one can get close to it. It doesn't eat or drink. Sooner or later, it will starve to death." The mercenary leader looked at the 3-eyed man and Su Fong. "Which one of you wants to go in first? I don't ask much of you, just let the flame beast settle down." The 3-eyed man said first, "This little one is quite confident in his beast-taming technique. Let this little one go first." "Go." The mercenary leader waved his sleeve. One of the mercenaries opened a gap in the cave's seal, and the 3-eyed man flashed in. From the cave came the roar of the flame beast, and then the cave became quiet. The mercenary leader was pleasantly surprised. "It seems that the slave has some skills. Who would have thought that before he could finish his sentence, a huge explosion would suddenly ring out from within the cave, shaking the seal at the entrance of the cave. Amidst the explosion, the 3-eyed man let out a blood-curdling scream, and then no other sound could be heard. "Useless trash!" the mercenary leader said resentfully, and then shouted to Su Fong, "Go in. If you fail, you don't need to live." Su Fong smiled confidently, passed through the cave's array, and entered the cave. He looked carefully. In the depths of the cave, there was a divine beast that looked like a leopard. However, it had a body of red fur that looked like burning flames. There was a single horn on its head. Occasionally, there would be a flash of lightning and a thunderous roar. The flame beast stared coldly at Su Fong and roared, "Another human comes to die. It's just a red-haired beast. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me?" Su Fong sneered domineeringly and made a hand sign. Yang transformation technique. A divine power shrouded the flame beast, and the amazing power of controlling and refining the yang energy quickly penetrated the flame beast's body. The flame beast sensed that the Yao energy in its body was out of control and was being quickly refined by Su Fong's power. Even its entire Yao body was being refined into essence. "Damn it, what kind of ability is this? It can refine my Yao energy." The flame beast furiously channeled its Yao energy. The red fur on its body started to burn, and the horn on its head kept on giving off lightning. However, just how powerful was the Yang transformation profound technique? This was the ultimate ability of Shi Xian Daozu. No matter how powerful the flame beast was, under the power of the Yang transformation technique, the Yao fire and lightning that came out were quickly melted before they could be released. "Stop! Stop! I'll listen to you obediently." The flame beast did not even fear death, but under the power of the Yang transformation technique, it instinctively felt fear. The Yang transformation technique could refine all Yang energy, and was the bane of all Yang Shin beasts and Big Goblin. How could the flame beast not be afraid? Su Fang shouted domineeringly. Just being obedient is not enough, I want you to submit to me. The flame beast said, my primordial spirit has been shackled by that human expert, how can I submit to you? Of course I have a way to undo the shackles on your primordial spirit. Behave for now. When we have a chance, I will take you away from here, and then I will undo the shackles for you. Hesitation appeared in the flame beast's eyes. Once it grew up, it would have the power to kill a Tao master. Also, it was born with a violent personality and would not easily submit to humans. Even if its primordial spirit was shackled, it was not willing to submit. Also, Su Fang was a false god. It was naturally unwilling to submit to Su Fang. It seems I can only refine you, Su Fang said darkly and formed a seal again. The flame beast hurriedly said, submit, I am willing to submit. Just like that, Su Fang successfully subdued a powerful flame beast. When Su Fang walked out of the cave, the mercenary leader and the other 3 mercenaries were surprised. They did not expect Su Fang to succeed. Very good, I will leave the flame beast to you to take care of. Feed it thunder fire pills every day and clean the cave. If you take good care of the flame beast, there will be benefits for you. The mercenary leader was very happy and gave Su Fang a storage ring. In the storage ring, there were hundreds of red and black pills, exuding a majestic and violent aura of thunder and fire. These were the profound pills that the mercenary leader had spent a lot of money to hire an alchemist to refine for the flame beast. Just like that, Su Fang became a slave who specialized in taking care of the flame beast. He did not need to go to the mine anymore and was considered to have a certain status among the slaves. Although it was said to take care of the flame beast, it was actually the flame beast that was taking care of Su Fang. Most of the thunder fire pills given to the flame beast were used by Su Fang to cultivate. The thunder fire pills' medicinal properties were violent and difficult for cultivators to control. No cultivator had ever dared to swallow the thunder fire pill. However, Su Fang had the Yang transformation profound technique and could easily control the medicinal power of the thunder fire pill. With the help of the thunder fire pill, Su Fang cultivated the 9 Yang 9 changes and attacked the 81st Yang meridian. It was estimated that it would not be long before his Yang meridian reached perfection. Su Fang's cultivation was also constantly improving. When he transformed the power of his yin-yang world into a high-level energy, he would be a Tao True Realm expert. At this time, Su Fang had the strength to kill a Tao True Realm expert. When he reached the Tao True Realm, he would not be at a disadvantage in a confrontation with the mercenary leader. With the help of the True Yang Execution Evil Sword, he could even kill him. With someone providing him with pills to cultivate, where could he find such benefits? Su Fang temporarily dispelled the idea of leaving. As for the flame beast, Su Fang used the profound transformation technique to refine the thunder fire pill, making the effect of the pill more than 10 times better than before. The flame beast swallowed the thunder fire pill and grew at an astonishing speed. Moreover, it did not cause any trouble and became very well behaved. This made the mercenaries completely relieved of Su Fang. Unknowingly, more than 500 years had passed. The mercenaries finally found a big buyer for the flame beast. On this day, the leader of the mercenaries respectfully brought a dozen experts to the valley. Hearing the exchange between the mercenary leader and the experts, he learned that these people were from the Eastern Profound Divine Domain's Fire Net Profound World. It was said that the Fire Net Profound World was a powerful profound world in the Eastern Profound Divine Domain, and the Pang Divine Cultivation Clan was a first-class Divine Cultivation Clan in the Fire Net Profound World. A woman from the Pang clan came with a dozen strong warriors. Chapter 26:13. The flame beast also sensed the strength of the woman and the masters and became restless. It roared and its red fur began to burn. The horn on its head began to flash with lightning. Be quiet. Su Fang looked at the flame beast and secretly sent a message. The flame beast immediately crouched on the ground like a docile puppy. Who is this? He's not simple to be able to tame the flame beast? Miss Peng's deep eyes flashed with surprise. The mercenary leader showed a flattering smile. That's a slave under my command. He's a false god from a low-level world. Because he has an extraordinary flame, he can tame the flame beast. I specially sent him to serve the flame beast. In that case, give him to my lady for free. An old man with a goatee next to Miss Peng said. The mercenary leader nodded. It's just a slave. Since he's useful to Miss Peng, how can I not give him to you? Su Fang's heart surged with endless anger and humiliation. In the eyes of these gods from the Jiuquan divine realm, he, a cultivator from a low-level universe, was like a pig or a sheep. Su Fang sneered. Today's cause will be repaid in the future. I, Su Fang, am not a pig or a sheep for you to slaughter. Miss Peng looked at Su Fang and said indifferently, serve the flame beast well for me. If I'm satisfied, maybe I'll give you God's grace and let you have unimaginable benefits. If anything happens, you'll have no value and I won't keep you. The woman was like a supreme ruler and Su Fang was just an ant. If it wasn't for the flame beast, Miss Peng probably wouldn't even look at Su Fang. The mercenary leader looked at Su Fang enviously. Boy, you've reached the heavens in one step. If you follow Miss Peng, even if you become a dog of the Peng family, it'll be much better than you are now. Let's go to Flowing Flame Waterfall. Miss Peng waved her hand to summon a flying chariot and stepped into it. The flying car was covered with fire cloud runes and had an amazing fire element aura. It was an extraordinary flying Xian Bao. The Peng family expert brought Su Fang and the flame beast, as well as the mercenary leader and hundreds of other mercenaries into the flying car. After activating it, the wheels ignited with fire and with a whoosh, they left the Xian Jie and flew into the chaotic void. The flying carriage didn't look big, only about 30 to 40 feet in length. However, there was actually another world inside. There was a space of 1,000 feet in size, and it was separated into many independent spaces. After entering the flying car, Su Fang and the other mercenaries were placed in an independent space, while the flame beast was taken away by Miss Peng. Su Fang sat cross-legged in a corner of the space. Those mercenaries discriminated against his identity, so they naturally ignored him. Su Fang learned a lot from the conversations of the mercenaries. The Peng Divine Clan was a powerful force in the Eastern Profound Divine Realm's Fire Net Profound world. Su Fang estimated that the Peng family's power was much stronger than the Feng family. Peng Yu's small world was called Peng Yu. She had a noble status in the Peng family and was favored by the Peng family's ancestor. Miss Peng brought many experts to Mysterious Yellow and recruited so many mercenaries. They were going to a dangerous place called Flowing Flame Waterfall to find a spiritual item called the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud. According to the mercenaries, the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud was a rare spiritual item born from magma. It could only be born in a dangerous place like Flowing Flame Waterfall. It was extremely rare in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain. It was one of the fire element treasures that fire element cultivators dreamed of. Miss Peng bought the Flame Beast because it was useful for collecting the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud. Flame Dream Illusory Cloud? That's a good treasure, Yu suddenly said in Su Fang's inner world. Su Fang asked in surprise, Yu, you know about the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud too? When I first came to the Eastern Profound Divine Domain, I once secretly admired a woman. That woman was a cultivator of the fire element. Later on, she was severely injured and only the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud could save her life. However, with my strength, how could I find a treasure like the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud? In the end, I could only watch my beloved die. I didn't expect you to have such a past. Yu, when you were in Dongxian, what was your strength? Upper Tao Lord. However, that old thing killed my nether avatar, leaving only this avatar born in the Pan-Song universe. Now, only my nascent spirit is left. You don't worry. I will find a way to help you reconstruct your physical body and restore your strength. You should solve your current predicament first. When you have a firm foothold in Dongxian, you can solve my problem. If there's a chance, try your best to get the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud. Such a treasure can definitely help you become a Tao true god. There are so many experts on the other side. It's almost impossible to get the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud. Where there's a will, there's no chance at all if we don't fight for it. If there's a chance, of course I'll get the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud and try to break away from the Pang clan and head to Dongxian. The flying carriage sped through the chaotic void for more than 100 years before it suddenly came to a stop. Come out, all of you! A divine aura swept Su Fong and the mercenaries out of the carriage and into the chaotic void. Taking a closer look, he saw a huge cloud of fire floating in the primal chaos ahead. Upon closer inspection, they realized that it wasn't a cloud of fire, but a gush of magma that surged out of the chaos as if a large hole had been torn in the chaotic void. The magma flowed straight down into the chaos and gathered into a magma region. The edges had already solidified into rocks. The heat emitted by the magma distorted the surrounding chaotic void, as if it was burning. It was a shocking and magnificent sight. The group flew towards the magma and landed on the rocks outside the magma. Entering the flowing flame waterfall will only result in death. You stay here. A Pang clan expert shouted at Su Fong. In the eyes of the Pang clan experts and mercenaries, Su Fong's only purpose was to serve the flame beast. Miss Pang wanted to enter the depths of the magma to find the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud, so she naturally had to bring the flame beast along. Su Fong had lost his purpose. Miss Pang tossed a fiery red jade token to Su Fong. Take this and protect yourself. Don't run around. If you meet those adventurers, mention the Pang clan and no one will dare to provoke you. Thank you, Mississippi. Su Fong didn't expect Miss Pang to be so kind. Miss Pang led the group into the depths of the magma and soon disappeared without a trace. Su Fong injected the power of yin and yang into the fiery red jade token. The jade immediately merged with Su Fong's aura and released a red arc of light that enveloped Su Fong. The terrifying flames rolling in from the front were blocked by the red arc of light. Su Fong immediately felt a lot more relaxed. In fact, with Su Fong's current strength and his cultivation of the extreme Dao Black Yang secret art, even without the protection of the fiery red jade token, there wouldn't be any problems. However, with this Xian Bao, it was naturally a lot easier. Su Fong waited outside the magma for 3 days before flying straight into the depths of the magma. Whether or not he could obtain the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud, this was an opportunity to escape. Perhaps he could even find some spirit items in the depths of the magma to attack his 81st Yang vein. After leaving the area where the magma had cooled and condensed, Su Fong arrived at the lake where the magma was boiling. The fiery red jade token given by Miss Pang was really extraordinary. Not only could it block the flames, but it could also absorb the flame's power and transform it into a stronger defense. Su Fong put away the jade token and was immediately enveloped by the shocking flames. His clothes were burned to ashes. Su Fong released the 9 Yang Divine Fire and activated the World Fragment at the same time. Everything around him was under his control. At this moment, he was no longer a false god. Even an ordinary Jiuquan cultivator of the Dao True Realm could not be compared to him. Su Fong flew over the magma. His speed was comparable to that of the mercenary leader, who was a Dao Lord. Of course, this was because Su Fong had fused with most of the world fragment. Flames rose above the magma, distorting the power of perception. Su Fong's perfect vision could only see around 300 meters away. Moreover, there were pillars of fire shooting up from the magma from time to time. If they hit the body, even a Dao Lord would not be able to withstand it. This was not a place where a false god from a low-level universe could come. Su Fong had to be careful. He used the world fragment and the fiery red jade token to resist the corrosion of the flames. After flying for more than 10 days, he finally reached the depths of the magma. Su Fang used the life-shrinking technique to sense the aura of Miss Pang and the others. However, he did not find their aura. The flames were too shocking. Even if there was any aura left, it would be incinerated completely. After searching for a while, Su Fang finally sensed a lightning god power left behind by the flame beast in the center of the magma. The flame beast was a fire and lightning dual attribute divine beast. It was like a fish in water in the magma. Before leaving, Su Fang had ordered it to secretly cooperate. He did not expect it to leave a god power in the center of the flowing flame waterfall, which was also the most dangerous place. It seemed that there was another world in the magma. The Pang clan and the mercenaries must have entered the depths of the magma. After thinking for a while, Su Fang used the yang refinement transformation technique. He erupted with a god power that could control and refine all flames. In an instant, the surrounding flames and the magma below were all under Su Fang's control. Su Fang withdrew his god power and formed a defense around him. Then, he flew straight to the magma waterfall. Bang! Su Fang rushed into the magma waterfall and set off a series of ripples. Then, his whole body rushed down with the magma. The scorching magma, coupled with the shocking impact, made even Su Fang's yang refinement transformation technique to control the magma. Under the impact, his god power continued to shatter. Break! Su Fang activated the true yang punishing evil sword. A sword chi pushed the magma aside. Su Fang dove straight down. After a dozen breaths, he reached the depths of the magma. Because he did not know what was going on, Su Fang did not dare to be careless. He sank to the deepest part of the magma and then drifted with it. Chapter 26:14. With the help of the yang transformation technique, Su Fang penetrated the surrounding magma with his divine power and quickly figured out the environment in the depths of the magma. It turned out that there was a world of flames in the depths of the magma. The impurities in the magma had settled down and condensed into matter. Above the magma, there was a space of burning flames. Su Fang carefully parted the magma and flew into the flames above. Looking around, there were burning flames everywhere. There were also some rocks formed by the magma that were exposed in the magma. Su Fang shuttled through the flames and finally came to a rock. After sensing that there was no trace of anyone nearby, Su Fang sat cross-legged on the rock and began to use the extreme mystic yang technique to absorb the surrounding flame energy and refine it into mystic yang essence. Then, he began to use the 9 yang transformation technique to let the yang meridian and the yin-yang world tree absorb it. The consumption along the way was too great. If it weren't for the thunder fire pills, Su Fang wouldn't have been able to last until now even if he had extraordinary abilities. He didn't know when he would find the experts from the Pang clan. Even if he did find them, it wouldn't be easy to get the flaming dream illusory cloud. Su Fang had to be in peak condition. Otherwise, he would lose his life here before he could get the treasure. Su Fang's safety involved countless people in his inner world. How could he not be careful? He hadn't cultivated the heavenly Tao Dharma body yet and couldn't place the universe in his inner world in the chaotic void. Wherever he went, he had to bring the people in his inner world with him. There was no other way. The mystic yang essence, refined by the yang transformation technique, helped Su Fang recover the yang energy he had consumed. Su Fang had extraordinary abilities. Even in the depths of the magma that was extremely dangerous for the cultivators of the Jiuquan god realm, he could still survive as a false god. Boom! A loud explosion came from afar. Then, the flames and the magma below swept over like a wave. Su Fang was shocked. He quickly used his divine power to protect himself and plunged into the magma. He quickly sank into the depths of the magma and avoided the terrifying fire storm. When it gradually calmed down, Su Fang drilled out from the depths of the magma and returned to the rock. It seems that the experts of the Pang clan have already found the flaming dream illusory cloud. Why would there be such a big commotion? Su Fong was puzzled. He hesitated to go to the source of the commotion. At this time, Mystery said, a spiritual item like the flaming dream illusory cloud must be guarded by powerful divine beasts. It won't be easy for the experts of the Pang clan to obtain the flaming dream illusory cloud. This might be your chance. Whoosh, whoosh. A fiery light shot out from the front, followed by more than a dozen mercenaries. When they were still more than 300 meters away from the Su Fong, the mercenaries caught up with the flames and released their auras. Some of them even activated their Xian Bao and attacked the flames fiercely. Even when Su Fong used his perfected abilities, he could barely see a fiery red epiphyllum that was 3 feet wide. It emitted a scarlet glow that distorted light, affecting Su Fong's perfected vision and essence soul. Su Fong hid on the rock and used the Yang refinement transformation mysterious technique to control the flames around him. Even if the mercenaries didn't focus on the ball of fire, they wouldn't notice that there was a ball of fire that looked ordinary in a world of lava and fire. Su Fong was puzzled. That's the flaming dream illusory cloud? Why are there only mercenaries? Why aren't the experts of the Pang clan attacking? Mystery said, I have collected some information about the flaming dream illusory cloud. It is said that the flaming dream illusory cloud can create many illusory avatars. It is similar to the avatars of Downlords. It can even deceive Downlords. The flames you see now are obviously not the main body of the flaming dream illusory cloud. Most of the experts of the Pang clan are fire elemental experts and came prepared. They must have seen through the illusion of the flaming dream illusory cloud and sent the mercenaries. Otherwise, why would they be so careless? As Mystery expected, the mercenaries destroyed the flames. The flaming dream illusory cloud disappeared without a trace, leaving only a flower petal with red veins. The mercenaries' efforts were in vain. They flew into the distance while cursing. 3 of the injured mercenaries flew toward the rock Su Fong was on. The 3 mercenaries sat cross-legged on the rock and swallowed elixirs to recover. Su Fong saw one of the mercenaries. It was the one who had used the black rope-like magic weapon to capture him. A fierce aura surged in his heart. You shackled me, Su Fong, and made me your slave. Then I'll make you pay with your lives. Let me vent my anger first. After 6 hours, when the other mercenaries were probably far away, Su Fong suddenly made his move. The power of the Yang refinement mysterious technique erupted and merged with the surrounding fire elemental energy. In an instant, the flames within 1,000 feet radius turned into astonishing flames that enveloped the 3 mercenaries. The 3 mercenaries were caught off guard and were burned by the flames. The mercenary who caught Su Fong was heavily targeted by Su Fong. His divine body was instantly burned to ashes. Su Fong's attack succeeded. Naturally, he wouldn't miss this opportunity. He activated the true Yang evil slaying sword and crushed the head of one of the mercenaries. The head was immediately melted into ashes. Then, Su Fong directly released the stone essence, which erupted with a majestic gravity and shackled the remaining 2 mercenaries. The one who was most seriously injured was the mercenary who caught Su Fong. His divine body couldn't withstand the pressure of the gravity and shattered. Su Fong flashed forward and punched the head of the other mercenary. This punch contained the power of Su Fong's yin and yang world. It immediately shattered the mercenary's head. Su Fong breathed a sigh of relief. But at this time, Yu and Ancestral Gragon warned almost at the same time, be careful. That mercenary is not completely dead. Before their voices died away, a divine light suddenly flew out from the head of the mercenary whose divine body was shattered. It turned into a figure that was almost identical to his physical body. This figure actually broke free of the stone essence's gravity and disappeared above the rock in a flash. It's you, slave, you lowly slave. You destroyed my physical body. I will take your life. The man recognized Su Fang and was not surprised. After a burst of angry roars, he fled in the direction of the mercenaries. His speed was as fast as teleportation, and he disappeared without a trace in an instant. Su Fang was shocked and stunned. Is that the yang spirit of the cultivators of Jiuxuan's realm of the gods? You explained, that's not the yang spirit. When the cultivators of Jiuxuan's realm of the gods enter the true Dao realm, they can combine their divine abode and divine aperture to form the Xiantian Dao Palace. Then, the yang spirit, heavenly Dao Dharma form, and Dharma power fuse. When they reach the Dao Lord realm, they can cultivate a Dharma body. That mercenary's Dharma body means that he is not far from the Dao Lord realm. But you destroyed his divine body, leaving only an uncultivated Dharma body. He can't do anything. So that's the Dharma body. You are no stranger to the Dharma body. In fact, the Pongsong universe is the heavenly Dao Dharma body of the old heavenly Lord. It is a low-level universe formed in the chaos. If it weren't for the evil god's descent, the Pongsong universe would continue to absorb the power of yin and yang in the chaos. The old man's strength would also increase because of this. You, tell me more about the cultivators of the true Dao realm and how to condense a Dharma body. You pondered for a while and then slowly explained to Su Fang. The cultivators of the Jiuxuan God realm cultivate with the chaos as the starting point. They cultivate themselves, and the Dharma body is the cultivator's self. In fact, the cultivator's physical body is also one of the Dharma bodies. In the Jiuxuan God realm, some people specialize in the physical body and divine body, while others specialize in the Dharma body. I have seen a physical body cultivator destroy a city with a punch. I have also seen an expert release his Dharma body and condense it into a huge enchantment to seal a mystic world. You have also seen the old heavenly Lord create a world in a year and a reincarnation with a thought. These are all magical powers from the Dharma body. The Dharma body also has many powerful abilities that are unimaginable to low-level cultivators of the universe. Generally speaking, once a cultivator of the Jiuxuan God realm completes his Dharma body, he can separate it from his physical body. Unless he is under a forbidden technique like the destiny magical power that you have mastered. Otherwise, even if his physical body dies, his Dharma body can exist alone. Moreover, his strength will not be affected much. Su Fang suddenly asked, can't he condense more Dharma bodies? Wouldn't that make him even more powerful? You smiled bitterly and helplessly. Who doesn't want to become more powerful? However, other than the masters of the mystic world, ordinary cultivators are limited by talent, cultivation methods, resources, and some other limitations that I don't know about. Those who can cultivate a Dharma body to completion are already considered peerless experts. Those who can cultivate multiple Dharma bodies are all peerless geniuses. They will definitely become giants in the future. As long as they are discovered, they will be recruited by powerful forces. Su Fang finally understood some things about the cultivation of cultivators of the Jiuxuan God realm. He thought to himself, when Dongxian Zheng and Dongxian Rong went to the Pansong universe last time, they obviously didn't cultivate Dharma bodies. Their strength is probably at the Daojin realm, not even the upper realm. The reason why they could become Dongxian Daozu's disciples should be because of their talent, not because of their own strength. At the same time, his heart was filled with anticipation. Master said that when my Yang Meridian is perfected and I cultivate the Jiuxuan Dao Palace, I wonder how many Dharma bodies I can cultivate by then. Next, Su Fang searched the corpses of the 3 mercenaries. From their storage rings, he obtained a lot of elixirs. Although they were all low-grade elixirs, there were a lot of them. There were more than 1,000 of them. For Su Fang, who was lacking resources, it could be said to be a timely gift. There were also 3 Xian Bao. Although the quality was far inferior to the true Yang evil slaying sword, it was a Xian Bao that surpassed magic treasures. It was just right for Su Fang now. In addition, there was an unexpected gain. That was, from the storage ring of a mercenary, he found a petal that the mercenaries had obtained when they destroyed an illusion of the flaming dream illusory cloud. QL11 sensing the astonishing fire essence in the petal and the world force, Su Fong couldn't help but want to fuse with the petal to break through the 81st yang meridian. However, after thinking for a while, Su Fong gave up on this idea. This was definitely not a good place to break through the yang meridian. Besides, this petal might not be able to successfully condense the last yang meridian. So Su Fong dispelled the idea and put away the petal seal. He absorbed the corpses of the 3 mercenaries into his inner world. These were all true gods of the Daojin realm. A drop of their blood could make the strength of big goblin like Qingyu and Bai Ling soar by leaps and bounds. It was also very useful for Law and Gui Gui. A total of 3 corpses might be able to make them rise to the height of transcending the low-level universe. As for his father Su Yaotian, Xuanxin, and others, Su Fong couldn't think of any good way to make them transcend or even reach the height of the gods of the Jiuxuan god realm for the time being. Also, he had to solve the problem of the evil god descending in the Pan Song universe. As long as the Pan Song universe was destroyed, all lives born in the Pan Song universe would perish unless they transcended. Even a petal is so amazing. If I get the entire Flaming Dream illusory cloud, I will definitely be able to cultivate the Jiuxuan Dao Palace. Chapter 26:15. Su Fong used the Yang refinement transformation technique and struggled to move forward in the lava. At the same time, he had to use the world fragment and the power of the yin-yang world to complement the power of the 9 suns. The consumption was astonishing. In order to obtain the Flaming Dream illusory cloud, Su Fong was going all out. Fortunately, Su Fong had obtained a lot of elixirs, especially the Yang refinement transformation technique, which could refine the surrounding fire energy and turn it into mysterious Yang essence to replenish his Yang energy. Su Fong estimated that he had walked in the lava for about 10 days. Waves of shock waves kept coming from the front, causing the depths of the lava to become restless. "We're almost there." Su Fong became more and more cautious. Arriving at a huge lava cave, Su Fong carefully poked half of his head out of the lava. With his perfect vision, he saw Miss Pang, the experts of the Pang clan, and the mercenaries standing in the air. All of their attention was focused on the center of the cave. No one was paying attention to Su Fong in the lava. Su Fong found a cave and quickly hid in it. Only then did he investigate carefully. He saw that the center was covered by a powerful barrier cast by the experts of the Pang clan. Inside the barrier, balls of fire floated. Each ball of fire contained a world of fire. He could see a 3-foot-long Flaming Dream illusory cloud floating in it. There were about 100 balls of fire, which were more than 100 Flaming Dream illusory clouds. He didn't know which was real and which was illusory. The experts of the Pang clan kept attacking the illusory flames. However, the flames flickered for a while and then returned to normal. "It seems that I've found the Flaming Dream illusory cloud. However, it's not that easy to find the actual Flaming Dream illusory cloud." Su Fong used his perfect vision to sense the flames. A shocking world of fire immediately appeared in his mind. He felt as if he was trapped in it and couldn't extricate himself. The flames could not only distort his senses, but they also had the ability to make people hallucinate and lose their will. Buzz. The Tao runes of the life-shrinking art gushed out from the divine aperture. Once the Tao runes came in contact with the illusions, they were immediately burned into nothingness. Only then did Su Fong return to normal. He didn't dare to look at the flames anymore. Su Fong was shocked. Even I had to use the heavenly secret life-shrinking technique to escape the influence of the illusion. The Pang clan's experts are probably affected as well. Su Fong had no choice but to be patient and wait for the right time. "You guys go." Miss Pang was getting impatient. She gave orders to the Pang clan's experts and mercenaries. The three massive clan cultivators were all Dowlord-level expert. Their foreheads suddenly split open as divine light shot out from them, transforming into avatars that were identical to their true bodies. The avatars then charged into the fiery light. There were also a dozen or so Dao Jin realm mercenaries who were unable to separate themselves from their avatars and charged towards the floating flames with their true bodies. As soon as the mercenaries entered the fire, they were immediately trapped and didn't come out for a long time. One of the Dharmakayas of the three Pang clan cultivators unleashed a burst of divine power to shatter the fiery light, but in the end they gained nothing. These fiery illusions were created by the infernal dream illusionary cloud. Even after shattering the illusions, they didn't even get a single petal. Another Pang clan expert's avatar had just entered the fiery light when a huge figure pounced on him from the inner world of the fiery light and devoured his avatar. No one knew what kind of monster could devour a Daolord's avatar. The Pang clan expert's true body staggered and his aura became weak. Although he wouldn't die after his avatar was destroyed, his strength would definitely be greatly reduced. The other Pang clan expert's avatar was so frightened that he hurriedly activated a flying sword to tear apart the fiery illusions and escape. A bunch of useless trash. Flame Beast. Miss Pang snorted and released the Flame Beast. The Flame Beast's horn released a bolt of lightning that turned into a violent thunderbolt. Wherever the lightning covered, the fiery light shattered layer by layer. It turned out that the Flame Beast's lightning technique could destroy the illusions created by the infernal dream illusionary cloud. However, after using this ability, the Flame Beast's aura became weak. It was obvious that it couldn't continue using this ability because it was still underage. The Pang clan expert couldn't do anything to the infernal dream illusionary cloud, and the infernal dream illusionary cloud couldn't escape the boundary. The situation was in a stalemate. However, the infernal dream illusionary cloud couldn't last long. When the Pang clan expert destroyed all the fiery illusions, both the infernal dream illusionary cloud and the monster would be suppressed. Su Fang used the life-shrinking technique and used the aura of the infernal dream illusionary cloud's petal as the source to sense the infernal dream illusionary cloud's true body. Although the illusions created by the infernal dream illusionary cloud were powerful, how could they escape the detection of the life-shrinking technique? Soon, Su Fang found the infernal dream illusionary cloud's true body. At the same time, he sensed the monster hidden in the fiery light. It was a monster that was 30 meters tall and looked like a salamander. However, it had a pair of fiery wings. He didn't know what kind of monster it was. Su Fang condensed the monster's appearance into a mental scroll and asked Ancestral Graygon, "Old Dragon, what kind of monster is this?" Ancestral Graygon replied, "That's a fire-winged salamander, a monster that lives in magma. Although it can't take human form, it's extremely powerful. It has the strength of an ordinary Dao Lord in magma, and has a violent temperament. If the Pang clan cultivators want to take the infernal dream illusionary cloud, they'll have to pay a heavy price. The stronger the better. Only then will I have a chance. Flame Beast, when the time is right, help me take the infernal dream illusionary cloud." Su Fang then secretly transmitted his essence spirit to Flame Beast. Fortunately, the powerful enchantment was only there to prevent the flaming dream illusionary cloud from escaping. It did not have the ability to block the primordial spirit's consciousness. Otherwise, when Su Fang's consciousness passed through the enchantment, it would have been immediately detected by the experts of the Pang clan. Flame Beast immediately responded, "Master, you're here too? It's very difficult to find the infernal dream illusionary cloud, not to mention those human cultivators can casually kill you. How can you take the infernal dream illusionary cloud? My essence spirit is shackled by that human woman. She can shatter my essence spirit with a single thought. How can I defy her will?" Flame Beast clearly doubted Su Fang's ability. It was no wonder. Although Su Fang had extraordinary combat arts, he was only a false god. Su Fang said confidently, As long as you grasp the opportunity well, it's not impossible. As for your essence spirit shackles, I naturally have a way to remove them. As long as you help me this time, I'll give you freedom. Flame Beast hesitated for a moment, then finally agreed. 3 days later, the strongest of the Pang clan cultivators, the old man with the goatee, finally made his move. A Dowlord is personally making a move. Watch carefully. Su Fang's eyes widened as he stared fixedly at the goateed elder. Whoosh! A Dharma body leapt out from between the old man's eyebrows. The Dharma body's appearance and aura of destiny were the same as the old man's, but it had no aura of life. It was completely condensed from flames. Dharma body, furnace, incinerate 3,000 realms. The goateed old man's Dharma body erupted with a powerful will. Chi, chi, chi. Spots of light lit up from the Dharma body like burning stars, shooting out beams of divine light that landed outside the flames created by the flame dream illusory cloud. The divine light intertwined to form a huge crimson cauldron. Boom! QL-11 flames shot out from the cauldron and burned wildly. The flames of the flame dream illusory cloud began to distort and then were refined. The illusions shattered one by one. A Dowlord was so powerful. The other cultivators couldn't break the illusions of the flames even after using all their means, but the old man with the goatee easily broke them. The flame dream illusory cloud's true form was revealed, along with the fire-winged salamander. It's over. This Pang clan cultivator is so powerful. It's hopeless to get the flame dream illusory cloud. Su Fang felt regretful and was already planning to leave. Suddenly, human, I've protected the flame dream illusory cloud for an era. Even if I destroy the flame dream illusory cloud, I won't let you benefit from it. The fire-winged salamander emanated a violent intent that caused Su Fang to feel as if the insides of his head were on fire. If it wasn't for his soul core being sufficiently strong and his divine aperture sufficiently stable, his divine aperture wouldn't have been destroyed by the fire-winged salamander's intent. The Dao True Realm mercenaries were unable to endure it as well. The heads of over 30 mercenaries instantly burst into flames, and they let out shrill cries as they held onto their heads and perished on the spot. Shit! That fire-winged salamander is going all out. The old man's true body and Dharma body flickered with divine light at the same time, and they controlled the crimson cauldron to shrink swiftly with the intention of restraining the fire-winged salamander. Bang! The fire-winged salamander actually exploded with a bang, and it blasted the crimson cauldron into pieces. Even the barrier in the surroundings was blasted into pieces. The old man was the first to bear the brunt of it, and his Dharma body was almost blasted into pieces. The cultivators and mercenaries of the Pang clan were even more unlucky. They were blasted off their feet, and over 30 mercenaries immediately lost their lives, while all the others below the Dowlord realm were heavily injured. The Inferno Dream illusory cloud was affected by the explosion as well, and its petals were blasted into pieces. Only a remnant flower remained as it was swept up by the surging lava. Su Fang, who was hiding in the cave, was blasted to the point blood sprayed from his mouth as well. However, it was still within the limits of his endurance, and he immediately sent a voice transmission to the Flame Beast. Flame Beast, what are you waiting for? Swoosh! The Flame Beast shot out like a bolt of lightning, and it passed through the surging lava and instantly arrived before the Inferno Dream illusory cloud. It opened its mouth and sucked the lava into its independent space. After that, the Flame Beast charged towards Su Fang. Flame Beast, you actually want to take the Inferno Dream illusory cloud for yourself? Are you tired of living? The Pang clan's young miss was instantly furious when she noticed the Flame Beast's actions, and she immediately utilized her intent to activate the restrictions that shackled the Flame Beast's soul core. Life-severing blade, sever the soul core. Su Fang flew out of the cave and executed the life-shrinking technique. He condensed the aura of the Tao of Destiny into a life-severing blade and slashed it at the Flame Beast's head. Hiss! The restrictions that restrained the flame beast's soul core were instantly severed by the might of the life-severing blade, and not a trace of it was left behind. The Pang clan's young miss noticed that she'd lost the connection with the flame beast's soul core, and she was instantly shocked. After that, she recognized Su Fang, and she was immediately surprised and shocked. It's that slave. A mere false god was actually able to come here and even break the flame beast's soul core restrictions?